Audacity. Kirk is not an attorney. This is not legal advice. This is to be considered for educational purposes only.
Welcome to Kirk's Law Corner Live with your host, Kirk Pendergrass. You're live. Oh.
Interesting show tonight.
Say that again. I had you your volume down. Sorry about that.
Good evening, folks. And we got an echo.
What?
Sounds like we got an echo.
Oh, really? You sound fine on this end.
Okay, sounds good now.
Cool.
Good evening, folks. Got a very interesting show tonight. It's time that we look at what the law actually says, what our duties are under the law. And I'm going to expose the mass corruption, the coup d'etat, and the way our government, our form of government is supposed to function and how it's supposed to be and how things are supposed to be. We are supposed to be self-governed, okay? We are a republic. And we have this ministerial enemy that has been in our history, throughout history, all of our history, clear back to before the Magna Carta. Okay, we've had constitutions, we've had all sorts of good stuff that's been laid down, ordained, and established as law. Declarations, bills of rights. I've taken the time to read some of those of our historical documents and succession of laws, what it really is. Because when we're talking about law, we're talking about rights. Rights is law. And we have many rights that have been laid down, ordained, and established as law through declarations and bills of rights throughout history. Again, clear back before even the Magna Carta of 1215. The Deeds of Clarendon, that happens to be one of those constitutions prior to the Magna Carta of 1215. The quick and easy here is Declaration of Independence declares that we have certain unalienable rights, and those rights are supposed to be self-evident. But I want to start with, because we've all been duped, seriously. We think the way things are now is the way things are supposed to be, and there isn't anything that we can do about it, which is not true, which is ultimately the question I'm always asked. The most common question I'm asked: what do we do to fix this? Fix the problem. And I can tell you right now, it starts with education. Now, I'm pledging my life, my fortunes, and my sacred honor to America, right here, to the flag for which it stands. I'm looking for people to do the same, and I know there's a lot of you out there, and we need to come together. And I'm looking for knowledgeable people on the law, or can at least grasp this stuff as, like I do, as common sense, and it's just common sense to me. And I know that that's common sense is not common, but that's why I'm doing this show right here. Kirk's Law Corner now. We're not calling it Law for Dummies anymore. It's just straight up Kirk's Law Corner. And we share the law. We speak the law. What is written in the law is what it says. That's what we mean by it says what it says, as it is written. That is the rule of law. And coupled with what Jeff Sessions has just come out with on November 16th, that you know, that's the rule of law. It says what it says. So I'm here to educate the people on what does it say? What does it read? How do you know what it's written is what it says when we speak it. That's what I mean by that's what it says, because we speak the law. And so right here, the Supreme Court has warned, okay, because of what appear to be lawful commands, statutory rules, regulations, codes, ordinances, restrictions, regulations, all of that. On the surface, many citizens, because of their respect for what appears to be law, are cunningly coerced into waiving their rights due to ignorance. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. By deceptive practices, constructive fraud, barratry, legal plunder, conversion, and malicious prosecution in an inferior administrative state courts. That's United States versus Minker, 350 U.S. 179, 187, 76, back in 1956. Okay, so even in 1956, even after the Reconstruction Acts of 1861 through 1871, and the abolishing the gold standard in 1930s, and establishing the Fed, which is known as the Federal Reserve, which has nothing to do with our form of government and is not authorized in our form of government. That's why it's a private corporation. That's the International Monetary Fund that controls the Federal Reserve. It is not under our law. This is going right back to because of what appear to be lawful commands, statutes, and this is what I talk about. Statutes, rules, regulations, policies, codes, restrictions. None of that's law. It's not law. And I've taken what Sessions has said about these documents, guidance documents. Those are all guidance documents. Who do those actually apply to? And that's the thing about constitutions. Who do the constitutions actually apply to? They don't apply to us, we the people. We the people ordained and established the Constitution for the United States of America. For anyone who wants to be a representative in a position of public trust or public office. So what that means, that's Article 6, Clause 3. Okay. Anyone who is an elected official is in, official capacity, public office. So that would be a House representative or a Senate representative. We have governors. We have sheriffs. Those are elected officials. Obviously our president for the United States of America is an elected official. Now, the other types of public servants there in Article 6, Clause 3 are people who are appointed into positions of public trust. That means you're hired or appointed. Okay, so the president appoints his staff. He appoints his vice president, the Secretary of State. All of those are appointed positions of public trust. But so is every agent of every agency, and that's what it talks about in Article 6, Clause 3. Everyone from the legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. So they're required. See, that's what the Constitution is for. It's for them, and it's not for us. That's the supreme law of the land. That is what is supposed to be undertaken and understood. And do you understand? That's what it means to stand under, to stand in agreement with. And the way the Constitution is written, they have to be bound by oath or affirmation. in order to enter into public office, public service, so that we don't have tyranny, this absolute despotism that has come back onto the land again. And this is what I'm going to share here. Okay, knowing this stuff actually starting to drive me crazy, because I want to fix it, and I want everybody to come together. So those of you that are in the family law and wanting to abolish family law courts, the whole courts, I beg you to stop trying to go after creating legislation, because there's no authority to make legislation. That's not law. Okay, it's not law. You're not making law by trying to pass legislation. It's not lawful. Okay, the law is the common law, bills of rights, declarations. That's law. So I'm begging you to come together and unify under liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And let me tell you, when we all come together under this one topic, one subject matter, and we address the problems I'm about to show you and how to do this, how to do the remedies and stuff is gonna come a little bit later, although it's probably going to be said here in what I'm going to read. But I want to explain to you how things have happened in history. History is repeating itself, and especially when I'm reading this Declaration of Independence here, I want you to listen closely and compare it to things that are happening today, because this is 1776. This is what we declared our independence. These are declared acts of tyranny. Okay, so if this is a declared act of tyranny and it's happening today, that's an act of tyranny. Absolute despotism that we're talking about coming back onto the land. And I'm going to get to that. When we all band together and we fight this as one unified front, okay, in a civil manner, your family courts are going to be gone. But to sit there and trying to focus on just family law and make statutory law, you think you're going to write this bill and you're going to get your parental rights. Parental rights are already established in laws, protected by the 10th Amendment. It's already there. It's just like the Second Amendment. It's already there. Okay? That's part of what I'll be going over again, is the declaration for the necessity of taking up arms to prove to you the history of this admiralty jurisdiction being extended back onto the land. These are not courts of equity. These are admiralty courts, administrative courts. That flag that you see when you go in there with the gold fringe on it, that is admiralty jurisdiction. Okay? The contracts, that's maritime law. And in fact, in my own statutes here, it shows that they have abolished the Article 3, Section 2, the suits at law. So their courts of law, it's supposed to be the courts of common law, and the courts of equity have been abolished. So you're not in a court of equity. You're in an admiralty court, administrative law. And what they've done is subverted the law and rewrote the Constitution statutorily, which is unlawful by congressional acts. They think that they have the power to do this. And I'm going to show you in history where this is the same exact despotism that they fought against back in 1774, 73, 74, 75, and ultimately in 1776 with the Civil Revolution, which wasn't very civil. But after repeated grievances, you know, they wrote letters to the king and said, look, man, what's going on here? This has to stop. This has to stop. This is in violation of our law, because we separated from the king in 1215. And we separated again in 1608 when they came over here and established Georgetown, Virginia. So they brought the Magna Carta with them, the Great Charter of Liberty. That is the subject matter. If we can all unify under and go for liberty, all of this stuff goes away. And I'm going to blow your mind with just what I have right here that you can read at any time. We're talking about Declaration of Independence. We're talking about your state constitution, and we're talking about the Constitution for the United States of America. This is stuff that, you know, we can't claim ignorance of the law because it's here, it's readily available. There is no reason why you can't read it. None. You know, find something that you've been doing that you takes up your time and substitute it with educating yourself. You know, I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to put it out there and trying to get you to comprehend what the law actually says here. I'm doing the best I can. And so that's kind of one reason why we've restructured the call-in part is Wednesday nights, because this show right here is about law, trying to teach you what the law says as it is written. So I'm going to start right here. Declaration of Independence in Congress, July 4, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. That's right. We were already the United States of America in 1776. We were, in fact, already into our second Congress. Okay. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. What are these causes that they declared? Declared acts of tyranny. We hold these truths to be self-evident. This is supposed to be common sense here, folks. Right here, what I'm about to read to you is supposed to be common sense, self-evident. There is no excuse to not know this right here. That all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Governments are instituted among men, okay? Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And I'm going to be going into that consent of the governed. When we talk about constitutions, that's the consent. That is a delegation of authority. So anytime you hear me say, well, where is your proper delegation of authority? It has to come from the Constitution, not from statutes. Not from code, not from ordinances, not from regulations, not from policies. No. Delegation of anything at any time. We don't need to wait. All we got to do is speak up. Okay? And to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form. Okay? We've already set up our form of government. It's in the Constitution. Okay? It's already there. Our form of government, Article 4, Section 4, guaranteed a Republican form of government. It's already established. We don't need to fix the form of government here. We need to fix the usurpers, the treasonous people within, the corruption within our government. Our form of government is not corrupt. I don't want to overthrow our government. That's a major misconception out there, is everybody seems to think people like me and patriots and that kind of stuff, we want to overthrow the government. And that's the way they, our ministerial enemy, likes to construe things, and that's why they created the Patriot Act. Okay? Kind of funny they named it the Patriot Act. So when you're a patriot, you become an enemy because they think that we are acting in rebellion, or we're acting in a way to overthrow the government. No. All we're wanting is the rule of law to be abided by. That's it. That's pretty simple. 2 + 2 = 4. It's written in plain English so that the common man can comprehend it, okay, and understand it. Actually, is what it says. The English language is, or this is to be written in plain English so that the common man can understand it. So this is, again, why we need to read this stuff, so that we know what it says, or as it is written, what it says when we speak it. Okay. The history of present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. There's the tyranny part. This is where I get to the point where it says, you know, these are declared acts of tyrants or tyranny. Right there. Established as an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. These are facts. Okay, we're talking about declared. Okay. Now listen closely to some of these declared acts of tyranny and compare them to what's going on today. You think any of this is happening today? And I'm going to show you that it is. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states. For that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization and naturalization of foreigners, okay? Refusing to pass others to encourage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of the land. Okay, that's why we have naturalization law, immigration law. It's right here, declared in here. Okay, that's why it's in the Constitution that Congress has the power to regulate immigration in this country, so that those immigrants can't be denied. But so also, we don't have foreign invasion. You must give up allegiance to your other country, whatever it is, your religion, your ideology, all of that stuff. Okay, you have to give that up to come here. You can practice your religion as you see fit, as long as it doesn't profess the use of force and violence. Okay, so like the Bible or the Quran. If the Quran professes the use of force and violence, which it does, clearly, those of you don't know that, man, you got to know this, okay? They kill gays, take them up onto the top of a building and toss them off, okay? That's an act of violence. That's in their Quran to do that. I don't care if they want to claim, well, I'm not part of that. That's what your book says. So your book doesn't fall under the First Amendment protection of religion. It doesn't pass the strict scrutiny test. So in order to immigrate here, and that's the thing, they're not even immigrating here. They're so-called refugees, and it's a big frickin' ploy to bring these people in here to bring this absolute despotism back onto the land and to cause chaos. They don't like us having these rights. Why do you think they keep going after our Second Amendment? It says shall not be infringed, and that's a period at the end of the word infringed. There is no other part there where it says Congress shall have the power to make legislation to regulate arms. Like some of the other amendments, when you read them, that's what it says. Congress shall have the power to do this. Congress shall have the power to do that. The Second Amendment doesn't say Congress has the power to do anything, because that is in the Bill of Rights. Okay, the original Bill of Rights had 12. And they only ratified 10 of those. So that's why we only have 10. The Bill of Rights is actually a separate document, although these are articles in addition to the Constitution for the United States of America, but as an amendment to it, but it doesn't amend anything in the Constitution. So we have to understand that it's still a Bill of Rights. The first 10 is the Bill of Rights, and I've showed my my document over here that's an actual original transcribed of the original 12 Bill of Rights. So that's what it says there at the top. In addition, articles in addition to. So that's why when you see me post stuff, I'll say in accordance with or see the 10th article of the Bill of Rights. It's not the 10th Amendment. It's the 10th article of the Bill of Rights. Okay. So, on to a couple more here. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. Okay? What kind of other offices are we talking about here? I'm going to get into these powers that are delegated, but there's no power delegated to create the FBI, the CIA, Bureau of Land Management, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. There is no power. Show me. You think there is? Show me. No. The only way to add on to the Constitution is through Article 5, through a constitutional convention and making an amendment to the Constitution, allowing allowing the legislative branch to create these agencies. Because, again, delegations of power, powers that were not delegated, there was none delegated to create these agencies and to have them strung across our country and invading our states. Okay? We're going to get into what those powers were that were actually delegated and who they were delegated to and what powers weren't delegated. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislature. Standing armies like the FBI, like the Bureau of Land Management, those are standing armies from the federal government, federally created standing armies. Not allowed to have that. We already have a military. That's part of the Second Amendment. Okay? And that delegated power there in the Second Amendment, the militia part, is military service. I'm going to get into that. He is effective to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. Imagine that. This is what's going on down there that happened in Nevada and over in Oregon. That's just what's gotten challenged. And that's what's happened over here in the Northwest. Okay, we have people taking up arms, exercising the Second Amendment rights. They're also exercising their First Amendment right to peaceably assemble and come to the aid of their fellow man and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness with arms. Because that's what that right is about. Is protecting ourselves from an absolute tyranny and despotism coming back. That's what we instituted government for, was to protect us from that. And they failed us. Again, history has repeated itself. And there's certain parts of the history I really hope that we don't have to repeat. And this is part of where my pledge comes in, because I'm going to start shaking the law at these folks down there, the legislators, the governors, everyone who's in a representative in form of government, sheriffs, all of them. I'm going to be talking to them this legislative session. I'm going to become a thorn in their side. But I'm going to come to them with Christian love and forbearance, knowing that they probably don't know what this says, as it is written. Okay? And I know that ignorance of the law is no excuse, but come on, this has been happening for far too long. We need to educate the people. And those that don't want to follow the law, the rule of law, we're going to remove you. We'll vote you out. We'll do what we have to. Writs of quo warranto, whatever it takes. Impeach you. We will do whatever it takes. We, the people, all political powers inherent in the people. I'm going to be exercising that right. And the claim and exercise of a right cannot be converted into a crime. Miller versus U.S. He has effected to render the military independent and superior to civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. This is what I'm talking about. That jurisdiction that doesn't belong here on the land, that's admiralty jurisdiction. It's foreign to our form of government, as declared, as laid down, ordained, and established as law in the Constitution for the United States of America. And in Article 3, there's a distinct separation. Suits at law and equity, okay? That's what's supposed to be on the land. Admiralty and maritime is on the sea. Or The admiralty, the administrative law part stuff, is in if for military purposes. Okay, so they have jurisdiction over their military bases. So, you know, like Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, that's administrative law. That's lawful. But who does the UCMJ apply to? It applies to military personnel and military personnel only, or those who trespass onto federal land. You know, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, where the federal government is allowed to purchase land inside the borders of a state for the purposes of forts, ports, arsenals, magazines, and other needful buildings for military purposes only, because that is the only power we delegated to protect us from foreign invasion. Okay? Foreign and domestic, but it's actually from, for the federal side, it's from the foreign part. Foreign invasion. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. What do you think a police force is? Police force isn't authorized, only military. And I'm going to show you that. The military forces are the only thing that we delegated an authority to regulate. Okay? We didn't give our assent, our consent authority to create police forces. I'm going to show you that in law, as it is written. For protecting them by mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states. Right? How many times have you heard that? You know, somebody was murdered and they're just like, yeah, we might indict them. They might be charged. They might go through a trial, but they don't. They get protected. They protect their own. You try to file suit against a judge and you take it to federal court. They say, no, sorry, we can't hear that. Judges have immunity. They're protecting themselves. We're not going to get justice from these people, if, you know, unless we start breaking down the rule of law. And again, back to President Trump and his inaugurational speech he put out there. I am going to give the power back to the people. And Chris Hallett's one of those people that under the executive order, when, you know, Trump asked for help, I really wish I would have caught that in the beginning, because I'd have been all over that like Chris Hallett was. I'm super happy that Chris has done what he's done. So it doesn't matter. All political power is inherent in the people. And we still have a duty here. We have a moral duty and ethical obligation to defend our life, our liberty, our property, our pursuit of happiness, our way of life. As an American, you have that duty. It's right here. Okay? Let's see. For imposing taxes on us without our consent. Imagine that. For depriving us, in many cases, of the benefits of trial by jury. Article 1, Section 9, Bills of Attainder. Article 1, Section 10, Bills of Attainder are prohibited. Okay? Bills of Attainder, legislation that prescribes punishment. Bingo, that's a Bill of Attainder. Plain and simple, that's the short definition. Legislation, comma, punishment. Bills of Attainder. Bills of pains and penalties. They all fall under that. One's for the felony, and one's for the misdemeanor. Either way, that falls back under admiralty jurisdiction, creating these administrative courts and applying these bills of attainder made at statutory law, which is not law, and enforcing them. Okay. So those right there ought to sound pretty familiar of what's happening today. And there's some more here, like this one. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. That's it. They're not supposed to be legislating in all cases whatsoever. We're supposed to have suits at the common law. And at the common law, when you have a suit, this is where the Sixth Amendment says we have the right to demand the nature and cause of action. So is it criminal in nature or is it civil in nature? What are you going for here? Are you seeking relief or are you seeking damages? That's tort claims. Okay, those fall under tort claims. And the civil part is the torts or the criminal side, but that's the damages for the criminal stuff. So this is still all supposed to be suits at the common law. And that's why the Seventh Amendment says what it says, suits at the common law exceeding the value of $20, the right to a trial by a jury shall be preserved. Because basically at any time that we're going to be talking about life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness and being deprived of any of that, we have the right to a trial by jury. Only the jury can consent to finding us guilty of anything, not a judge. That's not how our form of law, a form of government works. We laid down, ordained, and established this is how we consent to be governed. And that has been tossed out the window, and that right there, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. Now I'm going to read from Articles 3 in the Idaho Constitution, which is the legislative branch. And it specifically says, we have the power. Okay, that's the first branch of government. That's us, we the people, the legislative branch. We're the ones that are supposed to be making law. And what actually that law is supposed to apply to, and who does it apply to? It doesn't apply to the people. No, not supposed to apply to the people. When we say, okay, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, okay? So we're going to import goods from a foreign country. So we say, all right, we're going to be importing food from a foreign country. We're going to establish the agency known as Food and Drug Administration. And we want you to inspect that food and make sure that it is safe, for the people, to ensure that the necessary safety and security of the people. This would be a lawful command to the legislature to create the agency, Food and Drug Administration, to inspect that food and make sure that it's not poisonous to us in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Now let's go with the drugs part. How about vaccines? Okay, are they doing their job? Let's grab every single vaccine that's out there and let's take it to a lab and let's have the lab go, this is every single ingredient and element that is in each one of these vaccines. And now let's compare that to the list of poison. And if any poison is in those vaccines, guess what? Those vaccines need to be jerked, period. Plain and simple. And I can tell you right now, there ain't one of them out there that's safe, that is not poisonless. They all have poison in it. They're poisoning us, people. You've been lied to. You've been brainwashed. We all have. I'm guilty of it too. This isn't just me preaching to you. We all have, and this is the reason why I've taken the time to educate myself. Still don't know everything. Trust me. There's lots of stuff out there that people know that I don't know. But this is a good one. The vaccines are coming to the surface. We have Health Freedom Idaho. The ladies here in Health Freedom Idaho, they've been battling this stuff for over a year. They wrote up a bill last year. They were challenging the vaccine waiver form that Department of Health and Welfare tries to put out and say that you have to sign this. Okay, and you have to claim religious exemption or other. But then in the fine print, it says, oh, well, you acknowledge by signing this, you acknowledge that you're actually causing injury and harm, medical neglect to your child. Why would you sign anything that you're knowingly admitting that you're depriving your child of medical, whatever they want to claim? The statute actually, in a clear, plain language, which is what these ladies attacked, is it says that the parent is to write up the exemption. Okay, all they have to do is say, Write it up themselves, hand it to them, say, no, I don't consent. If you don't consent, you say no, no means no. Or it's rape, right? You try to have sex with another person and they say no, and you go ahead and do it anyway. Isn't that rape? That was not by consent. So if you try to inject poison into somebody after you've been told no by the parent in control of the child who has, you know, every single right under the law, creator endowed rights, and that parent says, no, I don't consent, that means no. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts here. We're not even going to argue about it. That's plain and simple. I said no. No means no. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. Islam. Research in Islam. You want to talk about the Crusades? Who do you think the Crusades were actually battling? Islam. For a long time. Has been for a long time. And the amount of wars that has been perpetrated on the people around the world by Islam is by far, far, far greater than the Crusades. I get this every once in a while. People say, oh, well, yeah, but what about the Crusades? Yeah, what about Islam? Far, far more wars. But what were the Crusades really about? That's right. Battling Islam. Been doing it for 1,400 years, folks. This isn't something new. Do the research for yourself. Get off of mainstream media. Go do some digging. Do some research. Find the real story about Islam and all the wars and all the murders they have committed in the name of Islam, in the name of Allah. Okay? We don't have Christians running around doing that today. Never have. It's always been in defense, like it should be. Everything should be in defense. We're not supposed to be acting in offense. So, Chris, did you have anything you'd like to say there? Or, I know I've kind of got a set plan for tonight, so forgive me, brother.
Oh, no, dude. You're doing just fine, brother. You are doing just fine. While you're talking, I was just going to post a link in the comments section to the Declaration of Independence from the National Archives. There, I just posted it. So
Nice.
nice. It's funny that you bring that up.
A team of people to post stuff as I'm talking about it. We need a team of people to clear across the United States to do what I'm doing what Chris is doing, coming together, talking about law, figuring stuff out. Let's talk about your topic there you've mentioned in Amber and Stephen.
Oh, which one? I've mentioned more than a few.
Right, but the one that you posted here a little over an hour ago, we're talking about what do we do? What can we do? I mean, I have some other remedies laying right here in front of me. So,
Well, I mean, as far as, you know, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I tell everybody the same thing. There's no wrong way to do anything. Okay? If you can clearly justify that your actions are consistent with the intended purpose of the thing you're talking about, which is compliant with the law, right? What the law says. There is a maxim of law that says anything that is justified is legal, right? So
That's right.
if my, you know, the creation of my practice, my independent practice, from the perspective that I've placed it, is justified and legal. Because if nothing else, I've proven to the court, when we talk about the integrity of the court, that every one of these actions does just that. It attacks the integrity of the court. And if you want to piss a judge off, show them where somebody's attacking the integrity of the court. You made a friend for life. I promise you, if you can show a judge that the actor, it doesn't matter if it's a prosecutor, doesn't matter if it's a defense attorney, it doesn't matter who it is. If you can definitively show where this person or, whoever is by definition attacking the integrity of that position, the thing that they're set forth to do by the people, I can tell you right now, they will take any and all action to strike it down. I mean, let's talk about this. I had this conversation with Judge this afternoon, and I showed him the parallel between misapplication of an SKU in a point of sale system and misapplication of a statute in law or in these administrative proceedings, and how both of those things attack the integrity of the thing that they're designed to be a part of. So when I explained to him where the loss is generated and how it's generated from a loss prevention standpoint, using principles of higher mathematics, calculus, and all of these principles that I use on a day-to-day basis. This is shit I do every day, right? Can plainly and clearly demonstrate how the mechanism works, right? Mm-hmm. And when I show them, these are the things that are, this is what constitutes good faith. This thing, not so much. So, for example, when you take a statute that cannot exist in law, take, for example, my one client down south here in Florida, where they're trying to charge her with unauthorized practice of law. Well, wait a minute. The statute you're talking about can't exist in law because the Supreme Court's already said back in 1973, the practice of law is a right retained by the people. How can you punish somebody for practicing a right? And the answer is you can't. So going back to the bills of attainder, et cetera, and how those bills of attainder, more often than not, attack the integrity of the law, the Constitution, the court, the Declaration of Independence, et cetera. And, it didn't take him long to wrap his head around it. I can tell you that right now. So, right. And, he asked me point blank, how long do I want to do this? And I said, when this case is over, if I could close this corporation, I'd do it in an instant. If it doesn't need to be, I'll retire it. It's that simple. If it needs to be, just like the concept of the Minutemen dating back to the Revolutionary War, right? Mm-hmm. Just because I'm here, okay, doesn't mean that I'm always armed and ready to go, but I can get to it in a minute. Same thing with E-Clause. I'll park it and leave it in the gun cabinet if that's where they want me to put it. And I'll be ready to fight at a moment's notice. Same thing. So, but anyway, we had a good conversation. I was really happy about it. And, it's not, wasn't anything like it was the first time. Our first time around, when I hit them with a monopoly argument, I might as well have walked up to him and slapped him in the face. And I told him the reason. He asked me the purpose for doing it. And I said, well, the only purpose for doing it was to show you that the thing was broken. The only way to prove that it was broken is to break it. So now that we've proven it's broken, here's how we fix it. So we take this mechanism, this thing for this problem, right? The next thing we'll have a different mechanism to solve a different problem. But for the here and the now, stay focused. It's this word that is in law, right? It has It's never been defined, and it's never been tested through the court. And I think it's time we test it, because Lord knows there have been more than a few outside influences, foreign influences, that attack the integrity of the court, the integrity of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and so on and so on and so forth. Said, and I'm sorry, but when the president asked for my help, asking you shall receive.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, it is my duty, talking about in Black's law, to, comply with the orders of my president, which I am doing, and I will continue to do until he relieves me of that duty.
He can't relieve you of that duty.
Well, if he says
the people
defined emoluments in law, and you can park your e-clause and go take a vacation, go on leave for a while, then that's cool. I can deal with that. If not, I stand ready all the time.
Yeah. So, all right. So, a couple different reasons why I'm going over this particular part of law here. This is about militia. We need to understand how militia works, and I'm going to tie this all together. I'm also going to show the usurpation of power. And when I'm talking about the 10th Amendment, about powers not delegated, okay, I need you to understand this. So this is actually in the Idaho Code, this statute. So, but because there is a delegation of authority from the Constitution to establish militias, okay, because that's necessary for a free state. So that is a lawful, they have the lawful, we, the people, have the lawful authority to create statutory law regarding militias, okay? And who are we going to delegate that power to? So here we go. Let's get into that. Title 46, Chapter 1, 46-103, State Militia, division into classes. The militia of the state of Idaho shall be divided into 3 classes, to wit, the National Guard, the organized militia, and the unorganized militia. Okay? The National Guard shall consist of enlisted personnel between the ages of 17 and 64. Okay, National Guard is actually our federal military. That's for national defense. Not to be used on the land, and is supposed to be subordinate to the civil power. But this particular branch of the branch of militia is for foreign, okay? National Guard, to guard us from foreign invasion. The National Guard shall consist of enlisted personnel between the organized and, 17 and 64. Organized and equipped and armed as provided in the National Defense Act. And of commissioned officers between the ages of 18 and 64 years, who shall be appointed and commissioned by the governor as commander-in-chief in conformity with the provisions of the National Defense Act, the rules and regulations promulgated thereunder, and as authorized by the provisions of this act. The organized militia, okay, here's the second part of militia. The organized militia shall include any portion of the unorganized militia called into service by the governor, okay, and not federally recognized. Not federally recognized. Okay. The unorganized militia shall include all of the militia of the state of Idaho, not included in the National Guard or the organized militia. Okay. So everybody is in the militia. Okay? Everybody. Because that's our duty, to defend life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So now let me take you to the Constitution of the United States, of Idaho. This is Article 14, militia. Persons subject to military duty. Military duty, okay? All able-bodied male persons, residents of the state between the ages of 18 and 45, shall be enrolled in the militia and perform such military duty as be required by law. Okay, right there, I just read that to you. Okay, but no person having conscientious scruples against bearing arms shall be compelled to perform such duty in time of peace. Every person claiming such exemption from service shall, in lieu thereof, this is crazy, pay into the school fund of the county of which he may be a resident, and equivalent in money, the amount and manner of payment to be fixed by law. That's a taxation, all because you don't want to go into the draft. So if you have, conscientious objections, basically, I can't take up arms, I can't kill anybody. Well, you're not killing, you're defending. Well, in today's day and age, we're killing people because we're not acting in defense of our country and national defense. That's why it's National Defense Act, right? Where is it? Here we go. What? Where is it? Oh, I got to turn the page. Wait a minute. Okay. Importation of armed forces prohibited. This is section 6 of Article 14. No armed police force or detective agency or armed body of men shall ever be brought into this state for the suppression of domestic violence except upon the application of the legislature or the executive when the legislature cannot be convened. But yet we just said right here that the governor is the one that can call it in. But that right there is when I was talking about importation of armed forces prohibited. No armed police force. We're not supposed to have an armed police force here. Period. You can't import that into our form of government because it is foreign to our form of government. That right there says no. We are not to have police forces. Now we're allowed to elect a sheriff. That's not a police force. That's a sheriff. Okay? Specific duties under the law for sheriffs are to serve warrants, bail jumpers, go after bail jumpers. Okay? This is where we got to go back to the right to defend your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness with arms. We are supposed to take care of that. We are the militia. Every single one of us. Everyone. That is why the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, so that we can defend our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness. Okay? Because that's all falls under property in and of itself. That's why it doesn't say property in the Declaration of Independence, because it was already self-evident that all of those rights are our property. Read Black's Law Dictionary. I read it to you before. Property. That's our rights. Our rights are our property. So we're not allowed, it's prohibited. Right there. That is a limitation on power, except for the application of the legislature or the executive, which would be governor. Okay, when this legislature cannot be convened. So when our representatives can't convene to go, we need some assistance right here, right now. Okay, when they're not able to convene, the governor is able to step in. Okay, that's how that's supposed to work. That's our form of government. This is how we're supposed to be living. We're not supposed to have a police state. This is not Germany. Papers, please. Papers, please. Now, who the heck are you? You're foreign. You're a foreign agent. You're not even supposed to be imported here. And that's the thing. Don't get hung up on the importation as in like importing something from a foreign country, because import actually means quite a few different things. And now, again, this is old language. You know, Idaho was 1890. So, and the importation and this police forces that we're talking about is the standing armies. That's why it's written the way it is having standing armies are prohibited. Okay. So, import means basically bring it into being. It also means importing goods and services. It doesn't necessarily mean importing into the state like it says, okay? Into the state, as in the status of our society. We're not to bring into being police forces, detective agencies, FBI, private detective agencies underneath the state. Okay? You want to hire your own private detective to deal with something, you can do that. But not, we the people don't have the legislative power to create an agency that is a detective agent paid by tax dollars, our tax dollars. Okay. Again, this was, you know, back in the day, we're like, how do we do this so that we're free? We're, you know, free to exercise our right of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We already know that we have the right to defend ourselves with arms. Okay. So that was all self-evident back in 1776. And yes, they did have arms. Okay. Even though some of them were swords and that kind of stuff, they still had arms, firearms. We're supposed to take care of business ourselves. And if somebody gets away, that's when you're supposed to go to the sheriff, and the sheriff's supposed to round up a posse. If it's some sort of domestic invasion, that's when the governor's supposed to kick in. You know, the sheriff's be like, oh, wait a minute. Yo, governor, we got a situation over here, and we need you to call in the guard, call in the organized militia. That's us. Posse comitatus. This is how we're supposed to be living. We're living under tyranny and corruption. You all know this. So with what happened in the War of 1812, coup d'etat, the bar, okay? In 1809, we originally ratified the 13th Amendment, basically kicking the bar out of our country. We found out who that ministerial enemy was, or ministerial army, in fact. And that is what we've been fighting against for a long time. The British Crown, the Crown Temple Bar, British Accreditation Registry. That's what BAR stands for. Okay, British Accreditation Registry. Now, anyone who joins the bar, no matter what state bar it is, and that's the thing, it's not a state bar. The state bar is not an agency of the state under a department head. It is a private corporation, which is exactly what Chris Hallett went after. Well, this is a private corporation. This is a monopoly. This isn't, these people aren't getting their license to practice law from a state agency, which falls under our sovereignty, because Title 74, Section 201 specifically says the people of the state of Idaho do not yield their sovereignty to the agencies so created. So, in other words, we don't give consent to carte blanche, consent to do whatever you want to do when we create this agency. If you start acting out, we have the right to abolish you, or to reform you, or to fix whatever's wrong with that agency under our legislative intent. Not our representatives legislating on our behalf. We, the people, are the first branch of government, by consent only. So from there, excuse me. Oh, where was I at? Where did I leave off?
Consent only, Kirk.
What's that?
You're talking about by consent only.
Yeah, we're supposed to be governed by consent only. I have so much things that just run through my head so fast, it's hard to stay on track and stay focused sometimes. So,
oh, I hear you, brother.
Forgive me. Can you remind me where I was just at there? Right before that.
Well, you were talking about state agencies and basically what I went after as far as challenging them as a monopoly. You can't do that, right?
Agency.
The states came along and said we needed a governing body to regulate private practice, right? Well, this private corporation known as the bar is not registered with that agency, therefore it doesn't have standing, right? What the hell are you doing here? You know, it's like somebody charging you with practicing medicine if you're not a doctor, right? As far as I'm concerned, they're practicing law and they're the ones who are not properly licensed and credentialed, because those of us that are, we're pretty damn good at what we do. That's the reason that we do this.
Now there it is. Bringing it back for full circle back to kind of where I choked up and had to get some water there, was the agency is the bar is supposed to fall, you know, anytime we create an agency, we create the agency. Well, the bar is a private corporation. Again, back to what Chris Hallett went after, was the monopoly. The bar is that ministerial enemy, that army that we've been fighting against for so long. And they're the ones in the War of 1812 through coup d'etat. They got pissed because we banned them. We told them anyone who takes a title of nobility ceases to be a citizen of the United States. They didn't like that we ratified that as a constitutional amendment under Article 5. We did it in 1809.
Yes, we did.
They came and burnt our freaking Capitol trying to destroy these documents, destroy the records. Okay, we're talking about 1800. We didn't have computers back then. We didn't have stuff stored online. You know, we didn't have stuff put on CDs. We didn't have stuff backed up on flash drives or anything like that. Everything was written. That's why it's written. It says what it says. When you read it, that's what it says. So they got pissed and did that. And they killed, again, back to a 1776 revolution, basically. But we already established the law. But they were pissed because we're like, you know what? We figured it out. It's you, the bar. You're the one that's causing the problem. You're the one that came in between us and the king, because in the Declaration for the Necessity of Taking Up Arms, they talk about how these devoted colonies were judged to be in such a state as to present victories without bloodshed. I'd love to get, this is where I'm trying to get at, without bloodshed, okay? And all the easy emoluments, imagine that, easy emoluments of statutable plunder. That's where we're at today, and that's what Chris Hallett's attacking, these emoluments of statutable plunder. They're using statute to plunder us and take our property, our rights. With the bar association is the enemy. Giving aid to the enemy is allowing the bar to continue to create these statutes, rules, regulations, and impose them onto us. That is an unlawful jurisdiction.
And that's right. That's the reason when I prepared my report, I prepared it as a report and not as a pleading, right? This is me telling you that we've come full circle, right? Here's all the history, all the stuff you're talking about. Here's how it has, here's where we started. Here's the current version of it. And this proves that we have come right back to, you know, right where we sit, you know, right where we started. So when you talk about what action you want to take, if you're properly credentialed, okay, you have the ability, and you know, through the acquisition of that credential, to properly create a corresponding report. So for example, if you're a doctor, doctors write reports one way. If you're a businessman, businessmen write reports another way, and so on and so forth. So you proceed under your credentialed licensure, and this way, when you present, everything is in uniformity and, does conform to what is written, which is one of the things that gives you standing, keep coming back to that, to make this assessment, right? So that's one of the reasons why I did what I did in the cases that I've worked thus far, bearing witness, right? Not standing as a law sayer or an attorney, okay? Bearing witness to this is what's going on. Here's my report that shows this. So everybody asks me how this works. That's how and that's why it works. That's what the judges understand. Remember, standing under it, they understand it. So,
but the problem is the bar has infiltrated our legislative branch, our executive branch, and our judicial branch.
Correct.
And this was clear back into the War of 1812. That's what they did. They killed our representatives so that they could bring back this absolute despotism. Okay.
Right.
In 1845, they've been in there long enough to get enough people together to pass the Congressional Act in 1845 to extend admiralty jurisdiction onto the land.
And that is
right there, folks. That right there. We get rid of that Congressional Act. That gets rid of the family courts. That gets rid of every single frickin' court. Every state court is gone. Every single one of them, because Article 3, okay, all judicial power is vested in one Supreme Court. All judicial power. All of it. Okay? We are supposed to have one Supreme Court, and then these inferior courts, not tribunals, okay? We're supposed to have inferior courts created under the powers of the judicial branch that were delegated, which is suits at law and suits in equity. That's it. On the land, that's the only two types of suits that we have. By law, the Constitution of for the United States of America. That's it. And the only way to change that is through an Article 5 Constitutional Convention. But here's the problem. You can't change our form of government when you're talking about the suits at law, because that's the common law. You're trying to mess with our creator endowed rights. You don't have the authority to do that constitutionally. And most definitely, you don't have the power to legislate that. That power was not delegated. Now, what the power that was delegated, which falls back under these Article 1 courts, sure. Every state has the power. Actually, the Congress, okay, has the power to create these inferior courts. So when a territory forms, tries to become a state, there's three states of being. Status, okay? Status of being. First of all, they're just people in a territory that's under admiralty jurisdiction, but not on the land. Because it's territory on the land, so it has to be a suit of law and suit of equity, okay? But it's under the control of the federal government. Now, when the people of a certain area want to come together and say, well, we would like to form a state and get united with the union, okay? And you have to seek permission to join the union, to be accepted into the union. And you have to agree with the Constitution of the United States for the United States of America, because it's the supreme law of the land. So that's the second stage of the formation of a state. So you have territory, then you have the state, but it's not actually a state that has been accepted into the union until you write your Constitution. So at this point, when you say, okay, we want this right here, we're going to call this Idaho. We draw the lines on a map and say, okay, this is the boundaries of what we would like to claim for the territory as Idaho, okay, and become the people of Idaho. So what they say is, okay, we'll do this, we'll agree to that, and we purchase that land. Imagine that. Then the federal government says, okay, this is our form of government. This is how things work here. Here's the Constitution. You have to abide by this. And not only that, we're going to send over our representatives, and we're going to set up how government is supposed to be. And we're going to show you how to do this. In the meantime, you're going to write your Constitution. We're going to help you write your Constitution, because that's what representatives are supposed to do. They're supposed to help us write legislation. They're supposed to help us with our problems, what we see as a problem, not what they see, not what they're being paid to do by other people. Funding, somebody just says, oh, here, I'll make a donation to your corporation over here, because that's what a lot of these bar representatives, legislators will do, is they create these corporations, side corporations, and they funnel their donations through their corporations. You might recognize something there from the Clintons, you know, the Clinton Foundation. That's one of their private corporations that they funnel their money through. Every single, well, I won't say every single one. A lot of the representatives, mostly the bar ones, okay, but we're starting to get some in there that are not members of the bar, which I'm really hoping that people wake up, and this is what we do this next session, to elect people who are not members of the bar. But they create these little private corporations. They get a business license, they create this corporation, and most of the time there's nobody even really doing anything. They just, on paper, they've created this corporation, and they do a profit and loss and all that, you know, and file their taxes and pay their taxes. But half the time employees don't even really exist. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They're semi-legitimate, but they funnel money. People make donations to them, and then they, you know, I'll give you $10,000 if you help push this bill over here, or we'll give you $250,000. You know, how do you think these representatives and stuff at the end of their terms or whatever, all of a sudden are multi-millionaires? How does that happen on the salary that we're paying them? It's impossible. They didn't win the lottery. If they won the lottery, they would have been out of politics a long time ago. Politics is not supposed to be a career. We're not supposed to have career politicians. These are supposed to be basically an honorary position from the pool of the people. And it's supposed to be, you know, us here, the people, go, you know what? I like this guy over here, or I like this woman over here because, you know, they're knowledgeable on this here, or they're willing to do this and they're willing to do that. Let's elect them. That's, you know, to represent us. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But the problem is people are no longer actively involved in what's going on in our government. What, you know, I mean, a part of it, I think, is fear. You know, when the people fear the government, you have tyranny. When the government fears the people, we have liberty. And that's where we need to be. Liberty. That's what we need to unify under, is liberty. We want liberty back. We want our right to exercise that liberty. Okay? So that's what we need to unify under. Family law people, meet the patriots, meet the active militia people, Minutemen of the 43rd. That's part of who I'm with, is Minutemen of the 43rd here in Idaho. 3% of Idaho. 3% is actually a national organization. You can look that up. In your state, you'll find your national leader. Get a hold of your state leader. Say, hey, I'm in this family law stuff. Can we get some protection over here? How about you go get some training? How about you go get a firearm and start learning how to use the darn thing? Get some training. Get some education. Because I have a very, very bad gut feeling that we're going to have to stand. And it's already happening over here in the Northwest. And in fact, Ammon Bundy and 3 others were released on free trial release today. Actually, like just a couple of hours ago. I was watching the live feed as Ammon Bundy walks out of the federal courthouse. Okay. They've been in prison for over 2 years now because a bunch of people, we'll call them FBI and Bureau of Land Management, BLM, Bureau of Land Management people, they put up cameras and they, surveillance cameras, and they watched the Bundys and what they were doing on their land that's been in their family for 130 some years. Okay. When you have the rights to use the land, and those rights include the water, you actually have the water rights is what they have, but they have the right to use the land so long as they're, maintaining the land and okay. And we're talking about out here in the middle of the frickin' desert. You got to have water to grow anything. You can't just grow anything without, there's some, I guess, cactuses kind of grow without water, but you're not going to be able to feed your cattle. You're not going to be able to provide for, any other animals that might be out there, that's not owned by the Bundys. So, you have natural wildlife that roams around out there, which is another reason why those people wear firearms all the time, because they are out in the middle of desert. Who knows what kind of animal they're going to come across? Who knows what kind of man they're going to come across out there? Okay. That's why you have the right to keep and bear arms, to defend yourself from this BLM agent that might come out there and set fire to your land. They might come out there with bulldozers and tear down your water tanks and your ability to provide and store water for your animals. You have the right to use that land. And so recently, I guess they this laptop, Mac laptop, was actually in evidence a while ago. Now it comes to go to the second tier trial, and that evidence is demanded to be brought forth. And I'll be darned, it's missing. How does that come up missing? It's supposed to have been in evidence locker. Well, that's called denial of exculpatory evidence, and that's actually tampering with evidence, because now you've misplaced evidence. Where's the chain of custody on that evidence? That's supposed to have been locked up in a locker, waiting to go to trial as evidence. Nobody's supposed to touch that until it's time to bring it out and show the jury.
I'll tell you right now, if defense counsel doesn't motion for mistrial right there on the spot, that is malpractice on the defense attorney's part, because the exclusionary rule applies. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any evidence that's tampered with becomes what's called poison fruit. Mm-hmm. And if it's poison fruit, it cannot be used either for or against you in any court. So that means evidence from an evidence standpoint, they're deficient. That means even though they're long on claim, they've got no proof to back up that claim, which means they cannot prove their case in totality against the Bundys, hence the mistrial. So, I find it bizarre that there's so many people don't even understand the basic concepts of how the actual judiciary is constructed, how it works when you talk about facts and evidence and admission and this type of thing. People go right into that. Well, I got this piece of evidence and I got this and I got that. Well, that's great. That's awesome. What do you have? Okay. Where's your timeline? Where's your claim? How were you deprived? Right? What harm came to you? The evidence says, like the law, the evidence says what it says. It's got all their handwriting on it. That's lovely. That's great. Yep. How does that piece of evidence negatively affect you? And people, they get so stuck on this piece of evidence they have, they lose sight of the fact that, well, I have to say how that thing harmed me. crap. How do I do that? That's where it gets complicated.
Right.
So, and that's exactly what these.
You have to first claim the injury.
Right.
Then you have to supply the evidence.
Right. So that's exactly what these attorneys, okay, that's what they're doing. They're prosecuting attorneys, is they're getting you all flustered and all pissed off. Why? Because they go to school to learn how to do this. They're masters at their craft. Okay. Going back to what you were saying. These bar members have infiltrated every branch of government. That's it. That's in my report. I called that basically exactly what it is. It is an encroachment on the separation of powers.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because if you are this bar member whose your purpose is to practice in the court, right? You are a member of basically a member of the judicial branch, an officer of the court under the current mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you doing in Congress? What the hell are you doing in the White House?
Right.
You have no standing under the separation of powers.
What do you do
to be in this room, other than maybe consultation if we request you? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the separation of powers comes in. And
well, think about this for a second. Does a judge have to go to law school to be a judge?
It depends.
No. You want to know why? Because the burden of proof is on the moving party. If I say the law says this, or reads this as it is written, the burden of proof is on me to prove that.
Uh-huh.
So as long as I can pull it up and go, well, judge, here's what the law says. Here it is written right here. You can read it for yourself. It's called judicial notice. You don't have to go to law school for that. This is what the actual duty is, to go, yep, you're right. That's law.
You're correct. But we got also got to remember the overly burdensome process that I just hate so much. If you have somebody behind the bench doesn't understand that,
all those rules of procedure are unlawful. They're guidance documents.
I get that.
Common law. That's not how a common law court works. That's not how the common law works.
Exactly. And that's kind of my point. So
all this is a fraud, people. It's fake.
Here's where we have a conflict between the bench. Yeah, here's where we have a conflict between the bench and where each of the parties are, whether it's the plaintiff or the respondent or defendant. I don't know what your state calls it, but you've got these attorneys standing here talking about all these lovely rules of procedure, and this person sitting behind the bench is going, what the hell does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Right?
Right.
So they end up talking to the wall and trying to present things in such a manner that distorts it. Okay, lies by omission or commission. My second favorite thing to say, to prejudice the court in favor of their case, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's not the way the practice was written and intended, right? That's the shit we declared independence from 230 years ago, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Indeed.
So, that's why I say, when we talk about how to do things versus what it says, okay, it's funny because throughout history, if you study history, the people have always figured out a way to overcome tyranny in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
One of the things that loss prevention does is that.
Part of what I want to talk about.
And it's funny because the government does not have a loss prevention mechanism at all, right? We, the people, have one. Every corporation has one, but the government doesn't have one.
Right.
So that's our mechanism to overthrow the tyranny that we're under right now. That same practice, again, they come up with rules. We'll figure out 10 ways to go around them. Oh, yeah? Well, we'll see about that. So you know, and
see, understanding this whole system is a fraud. I mean, I know that's shocking and to the mind, the conscious, you know, to the core of our minds, for me to tell you, you know what, the statutes are fraud. It creates the bar creates these statutes, and they're enforcing them as law. Their rules of procedure in these administrative courts, that's a fraud. That's unlawful. There's no authority to create those courts. There's no authority to create those rules of procedure. There's no authority to create the jurisdiction legislative, and there's no authority to manage that. Okay, when we're talking common law, the rights at the common law, what we have here is our creator endowed rights, okay, have nothing to do with the establishment, support, or management of the government.
Correct.
Plain people, our natural rights and our civil rights have nothing to do with the establishment, support, or management of government, which means even us, we the people, as the first branch of government, cannot put those rights to a vote. And like I keep telling people, okay, how about your right to freedom of speech? Okay, do I have the right to go in and make legislation that says you don't have the right to speak over here? No, we don't. We don't have the right to put your rights to a vote. What? Whoa, who is that?
Don't know. Sounds like
I got everybody muted except for you and I.
Ah.
Oh, and Ted. But Ted might have himself muted over there. Yeah. I'm letting people in so they can listen, but I'm not really taking questions right this second. There are a couple of people that I'm looking to see if maybe they've come on. I'm trying to watch the feed here. Eric Parker, if you happen to be on there, or Josh Gibbons, if you happen to be one of the callers that has called in, I would definitely like to speak with either one of you two, especially Eric. Josh Gibbons is actually one of the candidate elects that I tried to get on with Glenita Zeiderfeld. We'll be bringing on Christy Zito. She's already a representative. I'm already friends with Heather Scott. I need to get a hold of her and see if I can't get her to come on.
Elizabeth Ann says she's on hold, Kirk.
Okay.
What's
Elizabeth Ann? Again, this is not the call-in show, folks. Wednesday nights is the call-in show. I'm trying to get this out here, people. Monday nights is law. We're teaching law. Wednesday nights, we see the need for the call-in stuff. I totally get it. Wednesday nights is the call-in show.
Right. That's where we talk to you and tell you how to apply it.
The people on law.
Right.
What it says, as it is written.
Right.
Wednesdays, what we're trying to do is make it so that people can call in, and then we'll just it's just strictly, basically just a call-in show. We'll just start the show and we'll just start blabbing whatever, call us in with a question. Okay. We don't necessarily want to hear your whole entire case. We kind of want to stick to questions of law. Some procedural stuff is fine. But anything from there, you have to call an attorney. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I do not ever want to direct anybody to an attorney. I'm sorry. I will never do that. I will direct you to the law. I will direct you to your rules of procedure and read it for yourself, please. We need to start standing up for ourselves. These attorneys, they're by design to go in and admit the jurisdiction for you, take leave, which means whatever happens from here on out happens to this guy over here, this woman over here.
Right.
They go in and admit the jurisdiction. So, I'm trying to get away from that kind of stuff, because tonight is specifically about teaching you what the law says as it is written. Okay.
Reading the comments here.
Any kind of procedure or anything like that. That's Wednesday night stuff.
Yeah, I was reading some of the comments, and we keep going back to this. Another maxim of law that people don't understand is when the person who has been found, quote unquote, guilty of a crime is acquitted, the judge is the one who takes the rap for that, basically. And I don't have the book open to that page right now, but one of the reasons it's so difficult to undo an unjust and, undo a conviction that was found by a judge, not necessarily a jury, is because that judge is now liable for it. And that is a maxim of law. So when we go into, well, what is the thing why do they do this? Well, that's an example of one of the reasons why they do what they do, right?
Yeah.
However, what we need to do is we need to show them that, look, we understand that had the judge been given all of the correct information, right, not been lied to, not been, not had evidence purposefully withheld or excluded or whatever, we don't believe that this shit would be. And, if you can do that and show that clear enough, that's right for
times, folks. I've put it out there in posts. I've put it out on our shows. Marital rights and parental rights come from the law of nature as declared in the Declaration of Independence, protected by the 9th Amendment or the 9th Article of the Bill of Rights as unenumerated rights that are retained by the people, and those rights shall not be denied nor disparaged. Okay? That's it. They're at the common law. You're in the wrong jurisdiction. You go into a court with that orange fringe. See, my flag doesn't have orange fringe on it. Okay? That's a real American flag behind me. That's not some sort of prop. Okay? That's a real American flag. When you go into the court and you see that gold fringe on the flag, you are in a admiralty court. They are there to enforce the contract, whatever contract it is. And they've put it under maritime law. Your birth certificate, your marriage license, your birth certificate, or your driver's license, your social security card. All of those are little contracts that they're fraudulent contracts, because in accordance with contract law, you're supposed to present the entire contents of the contract in writing so that when you go to sign that, you're not being duped. You have the right to read everything and scrutinize the contract. It's supposed to look it over. I agree with this and sign it too. So there's supposed to be 2 signatures on every contract.
Right.
One between the giver and the receiver.
And a witness.
Signatures. That's what the witness is. The witness is there to witness you actually write your signature that, yep, that was Kirk Pendergrass, that I watched him sign his name on that contract. So
Correct.
Anywhere down the road, any one of us holding the contract can go to court and say, well, here's the witness that watched Mr. Pendergrass sign. Oh, yeah? Well, let's call him in here. Well, yeah, I watched Mr. Pendergrass sign that contract. That is his signature. I watched him sign that. That's my signature as the witness. That's contract.
As a notary, I participated in those. And one of the questions that is asked of me every time I go to one of those hearings is, did you properly ask the appropriate questions a notary is supposed to ask each person signing that contract? In other words, first one is, obviously, are you who you say you are? Yes, I am. Do you understand the contents of this thing you are signing? Do you fully comprehend it? Yes or no? Yes, I do. Okay. Are you doing so of your own free will? Those are the 3 questions that every notary has to ask you. If they don't ask you those questions, they're not doing it right.
Right.
And that's why I say, just basic principles and practices of being an officer of the court. And I keep a log of every time I do that. Yes, this was said. Yes, the oath was administered. The questions were asked. Here's the log book where the signer did sign that I did ask those questions and make those confirmations. So Here's the book. And it's more than just covering your ass. It's doing it right. Everybody says, oh, you're just covering your ass. No, I'm doing it right because that's the way the Congress wants it done. That's the way the judges want it done.
Back to the ultimate question. It's the all-time highest, most common question asked to me. Well, what do we do? Because I tell people, okay, parental rights come from the law of nature, protected by the 9th Amendment. But are you claiming that? Are you claiming that the court you're into does not have jurisdiction, subject matter, personal jurisdiction? Have you done that? No. And the ones that may have. I haven't seen their paperwork. I haven't seen that. So I understand the frustration out there. Brian Van Aken, some of these other guys that have really been digging into the courts and filing all this paperwork. And I don't know exactly what you're doing and how you're doing it, but I know that Chris and I have discussed certain paperwork that certain people have filed, and we're like, well, there's the problem right there. And we try to tell you what the problem is. But all you want to do is sit back and go, well, no, I did this and I did this. We're trying to tell you what the problem is with your paperwork, and you don't want to listen. The other thing is,
it's not just the paperwork.
This is why I'm doing the show.
Right.
This is why I'm doing the show, because this crap is broken.
Right. Remember, this practice is designed or reconstructed itself to defeat you at the state level.
It's a freaking machine just to feed you in one side, grind you up like a meat grinder, and spit you out the other side, and take you for everything that you got.
Exactly.
That is what they are designed by design to do.
Correct.
An attorney is to attorney you. That prosecutor, attorney, and that judge, most of the time is a magistrate or a commissioner. They're attorney magistrates or attorney commissioners. Okay?
Right.
Their root word is attorn, to take your property and give it to somebody else.
Right.
That's what attorn means.
Right. Now, when you talk about the way to defeat them is you go after their defective practices, their defective processes, because it's very simple to say, look, I know what you're talking about. I've read it. Here's the bad part. That's not what the law says. The law says this, you're doing this.
Right.
Okay? So yes. You want to take them down, you want to rip their legs out from under them. It's a simple argument. Why are you doing this when the law, right? Shall hold up your little booklet. The law says this. You can't do this because the law prohibits it. And, until you stand up and say, hey, like you said, I don't consent to this. Period. End of discussion. I do not consent. Well, we're going to hold you in contempt. The whole thing is contemptuous. That's kind of the point that we're here.
Yes.
Right. So
and again, back to what Monday night's about is about the law. And I'm trying to provide remedies, not remedies in your court, not remedies in court. Okay.
That's Wednesday.
This is futile, people. This is insanity. Me trying to tell you to follow rules of procedure. I know about the corruption. Okay. I've been trying to help you folks. I know that this crap doesn't work. Okay. So I'm trying to give you the answer to the ultimate question. We need to come together and we need to get rid of the bar. We need to get rid of the statutes, codes, rules, regulations, this administrative law, admiralty jurisdiction that was extended back onto the land in 1845 by Congressional Act. That is the problem. That is the root of the problem. The bar and the admiralty jurisdiction. That is your answer.
And the encroachment on the separation of powers. Law, right, because what you have
not making legislation abolish.
Right, so what you have in Congress right now is members who have sworn allegiance to this foreign entity known as the bar, and that's where their allegiance is to. It's not to their oath of office to the Congress of the United States. right? So, that's one of the reasons they create this gerrymandering and these, the DNC and the RNC. They present this illusion of conflict, right? This political conflict, and they design their political arguments so that either side will never agree or never come together. The right will never agree with abortion. The left will never say that, you have the, we want our right to abortion. And, it's not about right and wrong. It's what they will not agree with. No shit, Sherlock. Right.
Yeah, so the law of nature says something different.
Right. So, we can debate murder. Yeah, you can debate God's law all you want. You want to have an abortion, you'll face your maker when that time comes.
Right. If you get a guy out there drunk driving and crashes into a car and kills an unborn child inside a woman, unborn child, okay, kills that unborn child, that guy goes and gets charged for involuntary manslaughter because he killed the unborn child. So
right.
Applying the law equally to all, if this man over here gets charged for murdering this child in a car accident, how can you not apply the same principle to somebody going in and say, I'd like to have an abortion because, well, I just don't want to have a kid.
Well,
and there's always the argument, well, what about this? Yes, there's exceptions to the rule. Okay. Mommy has a medical emergency. Can't have the child or it'll kill her. Okay. Well, that's a medical exception to the rule. Choice of life there. You got to choose one or the other.
Right.
But for people who are being sexually promiscuous out there and, oops, I got pregnant. Okay, we don't need any more of those kind of babies floating around in this country, in this world. Stop it.
Yeah, find a.
You're responsible for your actions. Okay.
There's wonderful things called condoms. Use the son of a bitches, Jesus. But that's.
I know this might come off as offensive, but this is me, and this is my saying.
I'm an old man. I've had my kids. I've done my thing, and hey, as far as I'm concerned, if you can't afford it, know that you can't afford it. Don't do it. I think that would be pretty basic, but.
Well, here's my saying. 2 things. You can either swallow, take it in the ass, or abstinence. That's the 3 options. Okay? Kirk's Law Corner reality check.
Well, anyway, right? Meanwhile, back at the ranch. So,
at the OK Corral.
Right? It's we going back and we talk about how these mechanisms, how they've paid.
Right.
The lights are out. Nobody's going to be home. That said, good. Lock the doors. We're done. You unscrew the mechanism through Congress. I mean, that's the simplest way. And, obviously that's what's going to ultimately happen. But, for the stragglers, the ins and outs, we talk about what the law says. And when the law says you can't use the government or your position of authority to create an artificial advantage, which is pretty much exactly what they've done, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is the reason.
Line their pockets.
Right. So when you talk about
statutes, rules of procedure,
right?
Their own executive policies.
Yeah, the selective inclusion and selective exclusion of evidence. When they come in and they say, well, all this long claim, and you say, well, that leads to an emolument. And they go, and there's nothing that they can say to that.
Are you getting paid to do this?
Yeah. Because that leads to an emolument and it's not the truth. Well, let's see. We just said that in January of 2017, you can't walk into a court and lie. I can't believe we even needed to test that. But somebody felt we needed to test that in the Hardwick case. So, okay, now that we've tested that you can't lie, okay, well, guess what? Now you can't lie and create an emolument at the same time. Now you just created a double whammy. Congratulations, numbnuts. So, Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Remedies. Okay.
Beat them to death with an emolument stick.
Hold on. Okay. Idaho Constitution, Article 3, Legislative Department. Legislative power, enacting clause, referendum, initiative. The legislative power of the state shall be vested in the Senate and House of Representatives. The enacting clause of every bill shall be as follows, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Idaho. Well, let me take you back to the Declaration of Independence. It says, no, you don't have the power to legislate on our behalf. I'm going to dig out my organic constitution. So this is what I'm trying to get at for the remedy out there. Okay. Not going into court and filing your paperwork. Okay. Actual remedies to change the corruption and get rid of family court. This is what's going to get rid of family court. Okay, folks, this admiralty jurisdiction on the land affects more than just family court. So I need you to pull out from underneath trying to make legislation to create your parental rights when they're already established in law, okay? And focus on this right here and listen closely. The people reserve to themselves the power to approve or reject at the polls any act or measure passed by the legislature. But I already said in the Declaration of Independence, they don't have the power to legislate on our behalf. So there's a problem with my Idaho Constitution right here. And I'm going to get to it. Hold on. The power is known as referendum, and legal voters may, under such conditions and such manner as may be provided by acts of the legislature, demand a referendum vote on any act or measure passed by the legislature and causes the same to be submitted to a vote of the people. See right there? They're saying that we have to go through them to get permission to put something to a vote, to vote out something that they created.
You can't even say it.
Okay?
But you're right.
Yeah. Here's the one. The people reserve to themselves the power to propose laws and enact the same at the polls independent of the legislature. This power is known as the initiative, and legal voters may, under such conditions and such manner as may be provided by acts of the again, acts of the legislature provides how you can do this. No. Yeah. All political power is inherent in the people. We have the right to alter, reform, or abolish. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and this is what I want other people to do, and I want to get educated on how to do this right here. We're going to go, I'm going to go down to my legislators, and I'm going to go to my legislative sessions, these public open meetings law, when they're making this law, okay, in the formation of these laws, public meetings, again, by consent only, I'm going to tell them right here, Idaho Constitution is in violation of the supreme law of the land. This is a declared act of tyranny. Here's the Declaration of Independence, which happens to be in this same book that's put out by the Secretary of the State. This has already been a declared act of tyranny. Having people, legislators, legislate for us is a declared act of tyranny.
Right. Which is why we need to define
abolish. And what I'm going to do is I'm going through all of the Idaho statutes the best I can between now and then.
Right. You're talking about
pick out every single statute that doesn't actually codify the law as it is written and for its intended purposes. And not only that, it has to be a delegated authority to codify that part of the law.
There's your answer.
Earlier on the militia and the police forces. They're only allowed to create military. Okay?
Correct.
The rest of us are in the unorganized militia. Okay? That's why we have the right to keep and bear arms, is because we all are in the unorganized militia.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, like, for example, when you walk into the courtroom and you say, this sounds like a bunch of smoke-filled coffee house crap. You know why? because that's exactly what it is. Smoke-filled coffee house crap. You know, it's, you know, you call it a kangaroo court. You can call it, you know, a crock of horse shit. I mean, it's all the same thing, right? And it's our fault, every one of us, mine included, because I was doing other things, you know, working and providing for my family the same way everybody else was doing it, right? Well, while we were out working, these son of a bitches were in there usurping their power, right? Mm-hmm. And usurping the Constitution. Now we got to stop what we're doing and say, look, stupid, if I can't do it, you can't do it. Period. Mm-hmm. So quit doing it. Right. And the
what
first
I cannot do in my person, I cannot do through the agency of another. That's illegal.
Correct. And that, right. And that is, you know, when we talk about the Trump election or the Trump revolution or the, you know, whatever you want to call it, that was the first sign in decades where the people stood up in one voice and said, you know what, fucker, you're fired. Because exactly. We hired the guy whose two favorite words are in this order. You're fired. What part of you're fired do you not understand? Understand. Yep. Remember that. So, you know, it is just.
Well, okay, we're winding down to the 2-hour mark here, and I don't know how much. I mean, I was planning on going for quite a bit longer because I was going to get into some other stuff here, but this is a good taste of what Mondays are going to be like from now on. We're talking long, not really taking calls. Okay, Wednesday night's the call-in show. I know. That's why we're doing the Wednesday night call-in show. We all do, all of us here. Even those that of you watching understand, we know that there's a need for the calling part.
Right. But so on Wednesday night.
Seriously, I'm starting to back away from this stuff because this right here is what's important. You're wanting us to draw attention away from our focus, and I'm going to tell you right now, my focus is on this. Abolishing the corrupt practices, the unlawful acts, congressional acts. Okay. Yep. If we can get everybody focused on that, I know you want to focus on your case. I know you want to try and make legislation to establish your parental rights or whatever they are. Okay. The law is already there. They're not following the law. We got to fix the problem, the root of the problem. The bar, admiralty, jurisdiction. That's the two right there. We get rid of those two things, we're going to be a whole lot better off.
Yep.
And both of those things affect every single court on the land.
Right.
Every single court. Not just family law. Every single court. The same crap that's going on with the Bundys.
Right.
Okay. With the FBI and the BLM. All those agencies are gone.
Right.
We abolished that admiralty, that administrative law privileges. They've taken that.
Right.
From us. We didn't delegate, not by consent. You read Article 3, Section 2. Okay? Admiralty and maritime law. Admiralty jurisdiction and maritime law is for the sea or on federal land, you know, on military bases. That's admiralty jurisdiction.
Military bases.
That is lawful. But what isn't lawful over here on the land and applying to the people is anything outside the common law.
Right. And
rights, parental rights, your life. Your right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness comes from. Your right to travel by automobile, because that's your property, personal property. Okay? The streets and highways are free for the people to use. You don't have to seek permission from anybody to use the streets and highways. Now, unless you're acting in commerce, that's a different story.
Right.
But we have the right to travel by automobile uninhibited by any statutes, rules, and regulations. Why? Because that crap ain't law. Only applies to people who sign that contract. You're not required to seek permission from the government, your neighbor, to one, exercise your right of liberty, personal liberty, which is the power of locomotion. Toot toot, boom boom, let's go. Okay? I have that right. We all have that right as a fundamental, unalienable, creator endowed right. That falls under liberty. Okay, that's the common law. Then the streets and highways, they're free to use. your personal property, individual personal property, your automobile. See, but there again, they try to say you have a certificate of ownership. You don't actually own that. So there's the fraud again. But there again, it's yours. Okay?
I don't know. Somebody try to take my car. I'm going to show them I got the title, bitch. You try to take that car, I'm going to shoot your ass.
You have the right to acquire, possess, and utilize your property how you see fit. Not as your neighbor tells you or the government, because that's the word I want to interchange there. Your neighbor and government are supposed to be the same people. Your representatives in government is supposed to be your neighbor. Supposed to come from the pool of we the people.
Right.
Your neighbor.
Right. So why are we allowing these encroachments?
Dealing with the man.
Right.
Woman.
So the question becomes, why have we allowed these encroachments? Why? Yes. Because they're politically correct. Ah, shit. Here we go with that one again.
Yeah, there's a messed up term.
Yeah, politically correct. Oh, Jesus.
They force that on you. Well, that's not politically correct. You know what? You aren't following the written law as it is now. And you're going to try and talk to me about politically correct?
Yeah, take your politics and stuff it up your ass. Because I don't like yours, you don't like mine, here, and I don't give a rat's ass. It's that simple.
Yep. We're not supposed to be playing politics here.
No, I don't do politics.
We've already laid down and ordained and established the common law, what our rights are. We're supposed to be left alone.
Yeah, I'm an independent. I am what's referred to in Florida as a non-party affiliate. I have no party affiliation. I want to hear both sides of the argument. I will make my assessments based on what I like, what I choose, and I will vote how I want to vote. Half of the time, sometimes it's Republican, sometimes it's Democrat. But you know, that's selective politics. It's designed that way, right? And it just, oh my God, makes my head ache. Makes my head want to shoot off every time I think about this problem. But you know, I have to admit though, after today's conversation in the federal courthouse, I got to tell you guys, I feel a whole hell of a lot better, because seeing the look on that man's face the way I did, I'm telling you, you could see the light bulb coming on in that man's head. And it was just like, you know, the clouds opened up and the damn sun came out. You know, I can't put it into words. But, you know, it's been a long time coming. I have worked my ass off. They know I have worked my ass off, and they appreciate that I have worked my ass off. So, you know,
there's definitely some things that are happening with what everything that you have done and filed. I mean, it's already been adjudicated through Florida Supreme Court all the way to the top.
Yeah.
E-clause is already created. Okay.
Yep.
Registered trademark, E-clause, Christopher Hallett. That's it. That's the man that you're talking to right now. He is the head executor of E-clause, loss prevention. Okay. This is the stuff that's coming down the pipeline. He has a judiciary license.
Yes, I do. And I show them, you know, and that's the beautiful part. We've shown the judges we can do it better, we can do it cleaner, and we can do it within compliance of what the law says. Because another maxim of law is an act of law does no harm, right? So if we declare this entire bullshit unconstitutional as an act of law, because that's what the law says, there's no harm generated, right? People are going to have to sit down and actually learn what the law says. Oh, that's all right. There's a thing called a textbook.
Right.
Those are easy to come by, man.
Yeah. I mean, you can go right down to the law library. I mean, okay, so some people live way far away. I understand that. So that's a little bit harder for you. Some of this stuff is actually online. You know, there's quite a bit of stuff that you can't find online. Trust me.
Right.
But law.cornell.edu. That is a very, very good website for all sorts of kinds of law. So it's there.
Well, here's one of the things that you may want to do.
Are all there.
Right. You want to learn what
you can even go in by jurisdiction and find your state, and it'll take you to your state rules of procedure or your state constitutions.
There's where you start.
That's crazy.
Right. Start with your state's constitution, right? I live in Florida. I have Florida's constitution. I know it forwards, backwards, upside down, left, right, in and out. Wherever you live, download. It's free to do it. You can. It's a PDF. Instead of sitting on your ass watching TV, take your bowl of cereal, sit it down in front of your computer or whatever it is you have, and while you're mowing on your cereal, read that Constitution. Start there, and you go out from there. Because once you've learned your state constitution, what the law says, right? When you start reading rules of procedure in the court, number one, those things will make sense to you, right? You won't need somebody to enunciate, hey, what the hell is an emolument, right? You'll already know what that is. So, you know, you got to start somewhere. Start with your state's constitution. And that's it. That's the best thing I can tell you to do. After that, we're going to go on to, we'll talk about, you know, filing your paperwork in the court, you know, Wednesday night. So that's when I have a lot of my fun. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know, whose duty is it to protect your life, your liberty, and your property, your pursuit of happiness?
Yes, it's yours.
Yours.
Yeah.
Duty. Okay, you have the right. You have the right to defend.
Well, it's not just a right. It's your duty to protect yourself and to protect your fammy. There's a difference.
The claim and exercise of a right cannot be converted into a crime. Miller versus U.S.
Absolutely.
But what we need everybody doing it.
Yep.
Okay, everybody.
Yep. You know, the funniest part, I was telling a client this the other day, I'm the only for-profit corporation whose sole purpose is to not make money.
Nobody's funding us right here, right now. This is all free. You know, we don't charge anything. We don't even take donations. I mean, I'd be happy to take donations. Okay. I would.
Hey, I say give him to Ted. He needs better equipment.
Right. The amount of time that I spend doing research and preparing for this, that, and the other, doing shows. Okay. That takes up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
I mean, I work for myself. I do jobs here and there, but, you know, this is my calling. I really feel this is where God is calling me to go.
Yep.
And that is to educate the people on what the law says as it is written. Well, and I'm going to go start shaking it with our representatives and people in government.
Well, that's one of the things. That's where I go next. That's where I put that post out.
This is where it's written. This is what it says. And I'm hereby abolishing this. And I'm abolishing that. And I'm abolishing this.
Well, when I talk about going to my legislature, I'm going in there with a report after I have run, you know, what the court's interpretation of an emolument is, after we tested it based on this set of circumstances. I'm going to take and prepare a report and make that report to Congress, again, just the same way I did last time, and say, you know, look, this word does exist in law. Here's the court's interpretation of this word that exists in law. Now, what do you need from me to help you create legislation that defends and protects the citizens of the state of Florida from these emoluments practices? What do you tell me when and where and how to be there? I will be there with coffee and donuts first thing that morning.
But the problem is that this is a federal crime. It's a federal offense.
Correct. But once we define it as a
capital felony treason.
Correct.
Acting under color of law. That's treason.
Right. Correct.
There is no statutory authority to extend admiralty jurisdiction back onto the land.
I'm not talking about admiralty jurisdiction. I'm talking about creating the defense mechanism to protect against emoluments practices in the state of Florida, because It exists in federal law. It doesn't exist in state law. So that's when I said, and I walked into the court and said, look, the state of Florida and the state of Ohio are contractually deficient, right, per their terms and conditions to be a part of the Republic of the United States of America, right, under the terms and conditions of that contract being their constitutions. They are constitutionally deficient until they define in their state's constitution what is an emolument, what, in other words, what can elected people and what can hired people do and not do in law, right? Where's the threshold?
Okay. Repeated injuries after redress, after redress, after redress. Okay.
Right.
It's time for action, folks. Action.
Dude, I'm one old man. I'm doing all I can.
No, how about you, Chris? Okay. I'm really starting to try and get away with this, get away from paperwork and trying to go through the process of these admiralty courts and this corrupt system. It's time to start shaking the law at these people and say, this is what it says. Here it is. It's written in plain English. Do you not understand the King's English or what? You're under arrest. Capital felony treason or whatever it is. Title 18, Section 241, 242, 643. Those are all they're still felonies. They're all freaking felonies. Okay,
that's right. But when you talk about RICO as a process, right? That's a process. That's
arrested without a warrant. Don't need a warrant to arrest you with a felony happening directly in front of you.
And that's correct. And that's one of the things like murder and rape, like you were talking about earlier, right? RICO is not murder and rape. RICO is the process, right? A leads to B leads to C, right? That's the collusion. What's the crime? And the crime in law is defined as an emolument. Why? Because these people are unlawfully and unjustly using their positions of power and authority to usurp the rule of law, right?
Yes.
Here we go. Like you said, we come back full circle to the same shit we declared independence from 230 years ago.
Yep.
That said, how do we unscrew it? Here's my answer, my solution. So, if somebody else has a different one and has a better one, hey,
dude, these people are not going to go away that easy. Look at what we've in history. But
you're talking about this is the thing.
We've shot, we've killed them, we've stabbed them, we've done all sorts of stuff, and these people just do not fucking stop.
Well, and here's the thing. Remember, this is our fault because we didn't come forward sooner and say, hey, what's an emolument? Right? That's our fault. And I'll take responsibility for that.
Sorry, Chris, but that's not going to fix the problem.
Hey, you're right. There is no one right answer.
We already have Title 18, Section 2381, which is capital felony treason. Nobody's going to prison for that.
Right. Okay. Why not?
Let's quit lying to the people out here.
You've got a bunch of people
are
out
not
here
going to stop. They haven't stopped in thousands and thousands of years. It is the same stuff.
Well, we've got two choices. We can either use the law, right, to hold them accountable, or we can go back to Civil War and start all over again.
No.
Remember, there's two sides to that coin.
Right.
If we do it,
that's what I'm trying to say. All we need to do is we have to do this first. You have to afford them the opportunity. Okay. We all know that ignorance of the law is no excuse, but okay, with Christian love and forbearance, we're supposed to treat each other, with Christian love and forbearance.
Right.
They may not know.
The Lord's Prayer.
So I grab this, I go down and I talk with my legislator. I go and talk with my governor. I go to these open meetings, forums, and I say, look, no, this is wrong. You can't do that. Okay. That's capital felony treason. That's acting under color of law. You don't have the proper delegation of authority to do what you're talking about doing right now. You can't make this legislation. There's no authority for immunity legislation.
Right.
That's a violation of federal law, Title 18, Section 241 or 242, or perjury of your oath of office. Okay.
Either way.
And then make the arrest. If they don't stop, we have to make the arrest.
Right.
Now, we're not messing around no more. Okay? You've been shown the written law, what it says. If you don't follow the law,
right.
That's an arrestable offense.
Right.
On the spot.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons I wrote the indictment.
There is tyranny. When
right.
the government fears the people, we have liberty.
Right. So that's the reason that I wrote what I wrote as what it is. It's an indictment.
Yeah.
You have to have an indictment before you can have an arrest.
Do you seriously think that these men and women back in 1776 didn't redress their government?
Oh, I believe they did.
Okay.
I totally believe
do you really think that your writings and saying, oh, well, you guys are, and I found another piece in the, I'm not trying to put you down because you do amazing work. I love it. It may have an effect, but I'm speaking reality now. I'm going back to 1776.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really think that filing these pieces of paperwork with these people is really going to do anything?
Don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know.
History says no, which is repeating itself for at least 3,000 years. Okay?
Well, again, you know, like I said, are we a civilized people or do we go back to Civil War? I mean, you know, that dance, we could dance that dance all day long. The people came out in November and said, well,
but look, that's not what I'm talking about, dude. I'm not talking about grabbing our guns and going shooting and killing people.
Well,
that's not what I'm talking about doing. And what I'm saying is, I don't want to sit around here and file paperwork anymore. Okay. I want to grab the law and I want to take it down there and show them the law. Read it to them if I have to. Now, either you stop doing what you're doing right now, or I'm placing you under arrest. Capital felony treason is punishable by death. Okay. Right. Title 18, Section 242, 241. Both of those are acting under color of law. Here's the law. Your statutes, codes, rules, and regulations are not law. So writ of quo warranto, by what warrant, what authority are you acting in this manner? You better be able to grab the law, not your statutes, not your codes, not your rules of procedure, not your regulations from your executive branch and your policies that you've all made to cover each other's asses, but the law.
Well, are you also aware
of authority for you to do what you're doing right now? And if
here's what
you can't provide the evidence to support what you're doing, you're going to jail right now.
Now, here's the problem with that. Because under the current mechanism, which is the problem, okay, so 241 and 242 are basically, now if you ask a judge, because I did ask, and he said those are basically held aside for prosecutors, which is why Congress created 1985, 1986, the 42 version, right? Mm-hmm. So, whereas if you can establish under the civil, the 1985, 1986, the Title 18, 241 and 242 is applicable. I got that straight from the horse's mouth this morning.
Well, yeah, 83 is the civil part. Your tort claims are under 85 and 86.
Yeah, 83, 85, 86. If you can get those three, 241, 242 apply, there will be an indictment, there will be an arrest, and there will be incarceration. Point blank and period.
You know how it's supposed to be? Common law courts are at the post office, folks. You arrest this sucker and you take him down to the post office and you say, where's the courtroom? Now, I've actually got it on a pretty good authority that there are certain post offices that have an empty room sitting back there because they're required by law to have one.
You know, I was thinking about this. You can laugh. Remember the Bugs Bunny cartoon where he takes and he ships himself around the world, comes back around, and there's these stickers, France, Spain, you know, from all over the world. You talk about arrest these people, take them to the post office. I see them sticking them in a box and shipping them all around the world. That just, I don't know why. Bugs Bunny is just one of my.
Right. So common law grand juries, folks, we have that right. We are self-governed. We're not supposed to have these courts over here.
Right.
These aren't the people's courts. These are admiralty courts.
Right.
These are to deal with on the sea or in the military.
Meaning they don't have standing.
Are you out on the sea?
No. My feet are on the ground.
No.
On the earth, on the land. Real property.
You're gonna have to stand up, folks.
I want to see somebody stand on the sea without a boat.
You're going to have to stand up to these people.
Yeah.
That's all they are. They're people. And again, treat them with Christian love and forbearance. They're just another man. They may not know. We have to afford them the opportunity that they don't know, even though ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Well, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Right.
The Lord's Prayer.
We are dealing with the evil.
Right.
We're the ones that are dealing with the evil. So, again, we have to address it head on. Follow proper procedure, due process of the law of the land. Okay, process that's due to every man. That's what due process of law is, and that's prescribed in the constitutions, or in this case, the Bill of Rights. That's the law of the land. That's what's providing the due process. 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Articles of the Bill of Rights. 4th, 5th, and 6th Articles of the Bill of Rights. Read that. Okay?
Right.
That's due process. And if anything in the Constitution or laws of the state to the contrary are not withstanding, that's Article 6, Clause 2. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and you can take them to federal court, do what I did, and tell them you're contractually deficient.
Right.
You're not entitled to federal.
I've heard this several times, and there's even case law that says, "Oh, well, the Bill of Rights doesn't apply to the states." Is that right?
Horseshit.
My rights, bills of rights are our property. They belong to us. Don't tell me that I don't have those rights unless I'm in a federal court. Excuse me?
That's right.
Oh, wait a minute. That's right, because we're under admiralty jurisdiction here in this court. And that's why the Constitution doesn't apply. That's why my Bill of Rights doesn't apply here.
And that's why I said
the wrong jurisdiction.
Article 3 court. And that's where, and ironically, the first thing that you need to do when this happens is you stand up, you look straight at the judge, and you say, move to an Article 3 court. When they say denied, say, verbal notice of appeal. I will see you in the appeals court. That's it. It stops right there.
Well,
it's that simple.
Actually, it's simpler than that. I don't consent to this jurisdiction. Bye.
Are you removed Article 3 court?
No, we ain't removing nothing. We ain't removing nothing.
No. Not removing, moving. Changing the proceeding from administrative admiralty jurisdiction to constitutionally recognized Article 3.
Why would I want to change the venue or even try to change the jurisdiction? There's no jurisdiction.
You want to claim your rights under the Constitution, you need to do that in appropriate court.
No. You've charged me something. There's no jurisdiction to begin.
And I know that because that was another question I asked the judge.
Have jurisdiction to something that you think that does when there is no jurisdiction to begin with.
If I believe it's my right, I'm claiming it as my right. How many times have we said that? Right? I believe my right to be adjudicated is only in a constitutionally recognized court. I don't recognize admiralty jurisdiction or any other fictitious kangaroo court as a proper venue or a proper forum.
I'm not gonna afford them the opportunity to move it anywhere else.
No. I'm not talking about moving anything. I'm talking about
Bye. I'm done.
Move. When you say move, you're not saying taking it from one place to another. You're saying taking the Admiralty jurisdiction, the gold fringe off the flag, take that shit off and go to an Article 3 court, the regular American flag, like the one that's right behind you, right? That's a constitutionally recognized court of law, right? That's what this is about. Claiming your rights in law.
Why would I want to move something from an unlawful court that has no jurisdiction to somewhere else when there's no jurisdiction here?
Because it's a two-part process. When you get to the Article 3, then you say,
we're done.
Okay, now that we are in Article 3, what standing do you have to bring this action? What's your cause of action?
In their Admiralty court.
That's what I'm telling you.
You don't have the jurisdiction. I don't consent to Admiralty jurisdiction.
Exactly. You know, we're saying the same thing. We're just getting to it from a different place.
I don't want to have to go to another court to try and say motion.
No, you can do it all right there at this exact same moment. You don't even have to change your shoes. You do it. It takes about 20 minutes. Your Honor, move to Article 3 proceeding. Yes? Okay, good. Now that we're in Article 3 proceeding, what standing does this person have to bring this cause of action against me?
Say we don't even have to do that. That's not on us. Okay? We object to the jurisdiction. I don't consent. Goodbye. Case missed.
Well,
I'm not fucking around here. Let's go to Article 3 shit. No, you don't have the jurisdiction here. Period.
And that's where we get to the rules of procedure, because in order to deal with it, it's a two-part process, right? First one to go in is you're asking the court to recognize constitutional protections. That's where you moved Article 3 court. The second part of this is you have to challenge their standing to bring this cause of action against
you. You can't move.
Why are you here? Why did you bring me into this room? And the answer is because you're full of shit. So you've got no cause of action.
I understand that you're good at that other stuff, but I don't think you quite grasp jurisdiction and how jurisdiction.
Oh, yes, I do. Works. 7 elements of it.
No, Chris, because we've argued about this several times. Okay.
Right.
And I don't think you quite understand jurisdiction.
Well, the federal judge seems to believe that I do.
Anywhere. I am not the moving party. I don't have to move shit anywhere. I claim I don't consent to this.
I recognize
motion
jurisdiction, rules of evidence,
dismissed.
Judicial procedure over, well, and far above even what the quote-unquote high standards of practice, choke, choke, cough, cough, lawyers and attorneys are supposed to claim that they have. They're full of shit. Their standards ain't nothing, right? So that said, you're not even qualified to talk to me. Stand over and shut up. That's as far as I'm concerned. And you know what? And that's kind of the thing that we get to the same place, because the end result is there's no greater, it's like I said it in my indictment. There's no greater threat to our sovereignty than bad lawyers or bad attorneys and bad case law. Got a handshake from the judge on that one, because he said, you're absolutely correct. There is no greater threat. That's why we kill more cases than we adjudicate. I said, I'm well aware of that. I understand that. I get it. We agreed that, we knew right where the problem was, and we're going right after it. At least from my perspective, in my little minuscule situation, which is probably a drop in a much larger bucket. But, if, like the Hardwick case, they got out of it. You can't walk into a courtroom and lie. My goal for walking into the courtroom is I want a legal doctrine that says these people cannot encroach in all 3 branches of government. You are either an officer of the court, you are either a member of Congress, or you are an executive, right? You have no other allegiance to any other foreign entity.
Right.
The bar or
why do we have to go to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals for people to understand that you can't lie? Because, the ninth commandment says, thou shalt not bear false witness. And the Declaration of Independence says that these rights should be self-evident.
Agreed. Well, again, that's why I said.
Again, this is the problem we have. No freaking piece of paperwork is going to fix this. Okay?
Well, and we can agree to disagree. I'm cool with that.
Well, history proves this.
Right. Why do you think I quote so much of it?
This isn't my opinion. This is history that I'm talking about.
Right.
Repeated injuries, even after repeated grievances filed.
Yep. In other words, we're doing this same shit over and over and over again, dude. Take your head out of your ass and pay attention. Right?
No, it's strap on a frickin' firearm, go talk to these people, show them the frickin' written law, and stop them.
Well,
that's what it is. Because that's the only thing they fucking recognize.
That's only going to get your ass landed in jail.
Really?
There's a right way
to wrong. The Bundys just got out of prison,
and they spent how many years in prison?
They were all acquitted over in Oregon.
Well, let's call this spade a spade. You walk into your state Congress with a firearm, you're going to be dead.
Over here in the Northwest. Okay? We're doing shit over here. We're taking arms and we're saying no more.
Right. Well, that's like with the Bureau of Land Management. Absolutely. That I totally support. I'm talking about when you walk into Congress, you walk towards the Congress with a firearm on your hip, you'll be dead before your first foot hits the steps to go up.
Are you freaking kidding me?
I don't know. That's what it sounded like you were saying.
I said strap on a firearm.
Right.
And talk to these people. So that way you can defend yourself if you get some dumbass outside who thinks they want to try and murder you because you're speaking the law. Okay?
You know what? As far as I'm concerned,
now
I'm with JFK on that.
But first of all, Idaho, we don't even have to have a permit to carry concealed. Second, we can carry either open or concealed in the state house.
Yeah, see, those are because of our. This is another one of those problems I have with Florida.
In our state Supreme Court, we can carry concealed or open.
Well, again, that's another problem I have with my state because they have systematically removed that right, which I have a problem with.
Right.
So that's why I said,
what are you going to do about it? File some more paperwork?
Fuck no.
It's not going to work.
Nope.
They want our guns because they know that there is a rifle behind every blade of grass.
They can have my gun when they can take it out of my cold
one day. Okay? One day out of the year, Black Friday, more guns were purchased in one day than all of our military personnel in the United States of America.
I believe it.
One day.
I believe it. I'm staring at more than a few.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm talking to these people, folks. This is what I'm doing. I'm grabbing the law and I'm going to start talking to these people, educating them and what it says.
See, me, I'm not only going to grab the law, I'm going to go test the law. I'm going to go see what the judges have to say about what the law says. Then I'm going to walk in there and tell them, what you're doing, you can't do. You see these guys behind me with guns? These are the police officers, sheriffs, FBI, whoever the hell I've got behind me. And then now, because you're doing what you can't do, now you can go and do whatever the hell it is you're going to do from. That's not me, by the way.
That's not me either.
Yeah. You can go do whatever the hell you're going to do on your back off on your own backyard because you're not going to do it in this building.
Weird.
Zoom is strange sometimes. I mean, there was one show I started and we heard this whole conversation about aircraft. It was just picking up some some other conversation somewhere. It happens once in a while.
Must have some crosstalk, bad algorithm or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the other two callers muted. I don't know if it's just not muted somehow.
I think Zoom is picking up another conversation.
Yeah.
Crosstalk. Did you let the NSA in here again, Kirk?
Well, this is one reason why I'm putting out there is that I want some protection because, there's people that have been like me in history that speak the law and stand up and speak the law and try and educate the people. And they've been murdered.
Well,
So,
I guess I look at it this way. If it's my time, I'm gone. It is what it is.
Well,
but I ain't going down without a fucking fight. I can tell you that right now.
That's why we need to stick together and not let what happened to Nancy Schaefer happen to us. There's got to be a way we start protecting each other.
And that's what I'm trying to tell you, folks. Militia, get your arms. You have the right to keep and bear arms. That right shall not be infringed. Okay? Carry. And this is another thing is even though there's statutory law that says you can't if you're this or that or if you're mentally unstable or blah 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 blah, who gets to declare that you're mentally unstable? Would have to go through an actual doctor and that kind of stuff. That's just part of what Heather Scott and Christy Zito and Health Freedom Idaho are talking about. Is it says they get to determine. The person right there on the spot gets to determine whether or not you're capable, if you're disabled in some way or another, that you can't have your child, or that you're not allowed to have a firearm because, well, we just decided that you're not capable of, But see, they're trying anything and everything they can to try and get the guns out of the people's hands and take our guns because they know they can't come take the mainland.
Right.
There's too many people that are armed here.
Right.
And that's it. That's the only reason why we haven't been taken over yet.
Right.
It's because we are so heavily armed.
Yep.
That's the only reason.
That's right.
If we weren't as heavily armed, they've already taken over our healthcare. They've already taken over our education, our schools.
Yep.
Okay? Now they're at the point where they're taking our children and destroying families.
Right.
Okay? Subjecting all of us to admiralty jurisdiction courts, whether it's a criminal court, a civil court, or family court. They're all the same frickin' court. It has the same frickin' gold fringe on that flag when you walk into that court, whether it's criminal court, civil court, or family court. It's the same flag. It's the same jurisdiction. That's why I keep saying this isn't just family court. We need to unite under, let's get admiralty jurisdiction out of our states, back out onto the sea, and back onto the military bases where it belongs, under Uniform Code of Military Justice. That's where admiralty jurisdiction belongs. So that's where I'm headed. That's what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. Educating the people on what the law says. As it is written, I'm going to talk to my elected representatives. I'm going to become actively involved in that. I will apologize to some of the people out there in the family law stuff, but I am stepping away from that stuff. There's too much drama. There's too many problems. I'm going active mode. I'm doing stuff.
Well, I was talking with another guy, another friend of mine, the end of last week, and he's damn near got me talked into it between him and my dad. But my dad's been after me to run for Congress for years. He's said, if you do nothing else with your life, you need to go take a congressional seat. I don't care if it's in state or if it's in federal. And now I'm starting to hear that from multiple sources other than my dad. And, I believe it or not, I'm actually considering it for the first time in almost 50 years. So what good I can do from sitting in a congressional seat, I have no idea. Personally, I like working in the trenches. I like working in the courts. I like working in the trenches. That's where I can do most of my damage.
You know what? We're so far along in history, we don't even frickin' need legislators anymore. We've got so much frickin' statutory law made now. What the hell do we need legislators for?
Well, again, like I said, what can I do from a congressional seat?
Abolish all of the crap that has been passed, and let's do that. Let's stop passing bills, and let's do referendums. Let's instruct our representatives from now on, no more bills get passed until we go completely through every single congressional act and we abolish, reform, whatever, every single congressional act that is unconstitutional.
You mean make it manageable so the people can understand what it says? Oh, no, we're not allowed to do that.
Rules of procedure and regulatory policies that don't apply to the people need to be abolished. Gone. Bye.
Bills of attainder. Working on it. You know.
Well, that's the thing. It's already prohibited by the Constitution in Article 1, Section 9 and 10.
Right. So, you know, why we had to have Jeff Sessions.
How come they're not abiding by that?
Right. So why we had to have Jeff Sessions come out and say that again, I'll never know. But, hey, it's progress. Unscrew it, whatever it takes to unscrew it. That's what we're going to do. At least that's what I'm going to do. And,
I mean, oh man, I'm just trying to get to the point of shaking the law at these people.
Shaking the law, grab them by their throat and shake the shit out of them. What the fuck are you doing?
Well, no, see, that's the thing. That's the thing. I truly believe that they don't really know. And it's been done by design because of the education or the lack of education.
There's your answer.
Okay. Misdirection, misguided. When I went and talked to a judge one time in a case, and I told him, well, this is in violation of due process of law. And he's like, we've been doing it like this for 95 years, but yet he's not 95 years old, but he knows exactly how long they've been doing it this way.
Right.
So what the heck's going on there? But again, it's we've been doing it like this for 95 years. What do you mean that's in violation of due process of law? So that's where my mindset is, and where I want to come from, and where I would like other people to come from is a point of conscience that, hey, maybe they just don't know. Maybe they don't know that 2 + 2 equals 4.
But that's kind of my mindset with giving the judges the benefit of the doubt. Hey, look, had the lawyers not walked in here or the attorneys not walked in here and lied to your face, would you have made this decision? And the answer is, so far, in every one of these cases I'm working, the answer is the same. Hell no, I would have not made that decision. So good. I'm glad we can agree on that. How do we unfuck it?
Yeah. Well, like I said, here's the law, and here's your statutes, your rules, your admiralty jurisdiction. Here's the Congressional Act from 1845. It is now hereby abolished because all power is inherent in the people. All political power is inherent in the people. We, the people, have the right to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to get folks to understand and to exercise that right now, today, tomorrow. Let's go. Let's grab the law. Let's go start talking to these people. Okay. We're educating them. Police officers, the sheriff's department, your legislators, your representatives, your governors, every single one of them. We can do emails. You can do phone calls. You can, for us, I know that I can walk right in. I mean, I'm like a mile and a half from my state capital. I can walk right in there and go, hi, how's it going? Walk right into their office.
Well, I'm a little farther away than a mile and a half, but I do intend on doing just that. Once I get this done. See, that's another thing a lot of people miss. They get done with their court case and they go home. They don't go up. They don't take that thing that they just learned and generate a report and take that and give that to the legislators and say, by the way, this code, this statute did blah, 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 blah. It just failed in this court or state court, federal court, whatever. That said, you've got to take it off the books, right? And because people skip that step, now we've got this whole conglomerate, this whole monstrosity of bullshit piled on top of us, and nobody knows what the hell to do. Well, yeah, I know what the hell to do. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, you go through, and when you perform an audit, one of the first things you do is you find anomalies and you test what the anomaly is. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, testing the anomaly. And once we've figured out what the anomaly is, I can't make the calculations unless I have all the factors. So, you know, take this anomaly or this variable, turn it into a constant and say, now, here's how we can take this thing with this and create this formula and get rid of all this horse shit. That's what we do. That's the purpose of my job. Get rid of bad policy, get rid of bad shit, bad employees, bad policy, bad. Get it out.
Easy. I'll make it real easy. Every congressional act from 1845 forward. Actually, let's go all the way back to the War of 1812. The original 13th Amendment, where it bans the bar from our country. Everything from that day forward to present, every single congressional act is hereby abolished. And we will wipe it all clean. We will go back to the common law, and we can still use the Constitution, but there's definitely some specific parts in the Constitution that the wording would like to change, because bar attorneys wrote that crap, and that's the reason why they wrote it the way they did, because it gives them loopholes. And
right.
That's the reason why they didn't like the Articles of Confederation, was because there was no loopholes.
Right.
It was straightforward. It wasn't about money.
Right.
Okay? As I can read to you right here. This is from the Declaration for the Necessity of Taking Up Arms from July 6, 1775, that these devoted colonies were judged to be in such a state as to present victories without bloodshed and all the easy emoluments of statutory plunder, the uninterrupted, blah, 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 respectful and behavior from the beginning of colonization, their dutiful, zealous, and useful services during the war, though so recently and amply acknowledged in the most honorable manner by His Majesty, by the late King and the Parliament, could not save them from the meditated innovations. Parliament was influenced to adopt the pernicious project and assume a new power over them, have, in the course of 11 years, given such decisive specimens of the spirit and consequences attending this power as to leave no doubt concerning the effects of acquiesce under it. They've been in perfect harmony. No need for this international bank. Thank you, Alexander Hamilton, for instituting our international bank and taking our $9 million out of a private bank in gold. Okay? There's lots of crap that happened in our history.
Oh, I know.
You don't believe what they taught you in school. You've been brainwashed.
Yeah.
They stole our money.
They've been stealing.
They were doing quite well, even under the despotism coming from the king across the sea. Okay? We don't need the Federal Reserve. We don't need their fake debt notes. We can abolish everything from clear back to 1812 and the 13th Amendment, all the amendments to the Constitution, they're all gone. Okay? Every single one of them. There's nothing. I mean, there's some things that I definitely would like wording wise to change in the Constitution, but all of those, you know, okay. Check this out. Article 6.
Which one are you talking about? Iowa or Idaho or the U.S. Constitution?
U.S. Constitution here. U.S. Constitution.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Article 6. Article 6, this is part of the supremacy clause in the oath office and the religious test prohibited. Okay. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution. Oh, imagine that. Shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof. So all law must be made pursuant to this Constitution. Okay.
Almost sounds like you the Constitution is going to last very long.
Okay. Shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges. Here we go. The judges in every state shall be bound thereby. So when they say that the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and your rights don't apply in the states, yes, it does, because it says the reason why is because it's the law of the land. Okay, and our rights are our property. Okay, so then from there, number 3, the senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, all of them, both of the United States and of the several states, okay, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Yep. No religious test shall ever be required as in qualifications to any office, or public trust under the United States. There it is. So who is to be bound by this Constitution? Not we.
That would be
the senators, representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, whether you're elected to a public office or you're in a position of public trust, you are bound by this Constitution.
Not us.
To uphold and support this Constitution. Not we the people. We the people ordain and establish this Constitution. So that anybody who wants to work for us, either as a public servant, obviously, elected official, or appointed into position of public trust, you damn well better have an oath or an affirmation on file.
Yep.
And it has to be signed and subscribed under oath. You know, I take an oath, take your right hand, put it on the Bible, and I subscribe. Although it says that's why you're not supposed to have a religious test, which is BS.
Right.
Because, perfect example, if I can get to it. Come on. Okay. Preamble to the state of Idaho's Constitution. We, the people of the state of Idaho, grateful to Almighty God for our freedom, to secure its blessings and promote our common welfare, do establish this Constitution.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then you have what can you recite the preamble to the Constitution for the United States of America?
Yes, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, remember that one, and ensure domestic tranquility, do hereby adopt this Constitution.
Ordain and establish this Constitution.
Yes, thank you.
For the United States of America.
Correct.
We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union.
I was going to Black's Law because I wanted to check something. Remember, we talked about this.
Right.
Remember? I wanted to see about that because
that was justice. Ensure I could not find domestic tranquility. I couldn't even find tranquility in my Black's Law dictionary.
Yeah, it's not there. I know. I've looked it up too. It's not there.
The only one I haven't really looked in is my Beauvair's 1856 edition.
Yeah, I almost shat myself when I couldn't find it.
Yeah, tell me about it. I even tried. Well, yeah. Anyway, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and ordain to ourselves and our posterity do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Okay. Now, when we're talking religion here, because in order to form a more perfect union and to ensure justice and ensure domestic tranquility, and secure the blessings of liberty. Blessings, okay? Go back to the Magna Carta, where in the Magna Carta was for religious separation. And see, this is key, because what this Magna Carta says is that we, the church, give our rights to God.
Right.
15 with the Magna Carta. This is the crucial point in history that because they knew that the king was the tyrant.
Right.
So in their mind, how do we play this game of chess and get the king out of messing around with our rights? We give him to God. God's above the king, right?
Yep.
So if we give our rights to God and we secure the blessings of liberty, because that's the great charter of liberty, the Magna Carta or Charta,
right?
Charter of liberty. So we're securing that liberty. Those blessings, it was given to God back in 1215 through the Great Charter.
Yeah.
We're securing those blessings from God in this Constitution. We're retaining all of those blessings to ourselves. We do ordain to ourselves, our posterity. Okay?
Right.
But to secure all this stuff, we're instituting government by Constitution. That Constitution doesn't apply to us. It applies to anyone who wants to work for us, though. And that's what a writ quo warranto does.
Right.
Authority. Where's the proper delegation of authority to act the way you're acting? Can you show me in law where you have the authority to act that way? If
right.
you can't do that, you're screwed. You're shutting your ass down.
That's right.
Yeah. So, again, grab the law, read the law to them, go from there.
Oh, that's why I said I think we're getting to the same place. We're just taking different paths on the different lanes on the same road. But
I'm taking the law to the man. I'm not worried about trying to file paperwork and go over here. I'm going straight to them.
Yeah, well, I have a little fun with my process.
Great. I mean, we definitely can try many different things, but given the repeated history, and I mean repeated, not just once, not just a couple times, but over and over and over and over again. Okay?
Yeah.
I want to break that cycle. It's insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results.
Albert Einstein. Love it.
That's insanity.
Albert Einstein was the one that said that.
I don't want to go insane, but I'll tell you what, this crap, reading the history and going, oh man, are you serious? It's driving me crazy. Yeah. Because, I mean, we're all supposed to be human beings here and treat each other. I mean, that's the part that really gets me. It's like, how can these people do this to another man?
Right.
How? I mean, in good conscience. But then again, I'm asking too much for people to be in good conscience and have a moral compass and question their own actions.
Right.
Well,
did I say?
I
thought I said among men. My bad. I just was reading a comment because every once in a while I can get Facebook to come back up. So I was reading some of the comments, And John says it sounded like I said above men. And I thought I said among men. My bad. If I said above, that's not what I meant. We're talking about the preamble.
Brenda, she's like, doesn't anyone need to go pee?
We allow you, Brenda. Have at it. We'll keep your spot warm. We love you.
Sometimes when I'm planning a long show, I just do a catheter thing. And
put the flag up next to the toilet.
All right. So I hope people learn something tonight.
Yeah, I think we're going to have some serious questions come Wednesday night, and that's good. That's what we want. So, when we talk about what the law says versus how we apply it, and that's what we're going to talk about Wednesday night. How do we apply it?
Right.
So, that's when it starts to get fun. That's when I get my feet wet.
You take your notes during Monday night's class, educational class here, okay? And then on Wednesday night, you call in and you ask the questions that you have from this show.
Right.
How's that? Does that work?
I love it.
Now, hopefully we can remember what we said here today.
Can I take makeups? I think I might have to go to summer school.
I do have a brain injury. I smashed my head on a tree and bruised my brain in 3 different places back in 1999. So had to have an MRI, and I'm lucky I actually didn't die. So
yeah, you are lucky.
I've been hit by a car. I was on my bicycle. Get this, coming home from driver's ed. I got hit by a car.
That's the oxymoron from hell.
God has saved me a few times, and I will testify to that every time, because, man, I don't know, especially the car thing. I mean, it hit me. I was going in between traffic, and that other lane was supposed to be closed. There was a bunch of cones there. Sign says, this lane closed. Here comes this kid shooting up there with an RX-7. Caught me right in the ankle, and somehow it dismounted me off the bike instead of pushing me down on the ground. And I slid up on the hood and bounced up off the windshield and then landed on my feet. So I don't know. I've seen way worse things happen in car accidents.
Diane says, smashed it in the right place because you have superior intelligence. So bless her heart. She loves us.
Right.
And you're welcome, Brenda. We're doing everything we can. Anyway, this is not an easy task. We're remember, we're just, a couple of guys who were doing a job, came home from work and realized that all hell broke loose while we were gone. So, here we are saying, okay, well, what the hell did I have in this little briefcase of tricks that I carry with me back and forth to work every day? Oh, here's one. So, that's why we're doing what we're doing.
I try to go for as long as I can, and this stuff is very taxing on the brain.
Yeah,
really, to be able to just spout this stuff off, and the only thing I really read from tonight was the Constitution,
the Declaration
of Independence, the Declaration for necessity of taking up arms. Everything else has been off the top of my head, and the one statute,
right,
and the case law. So, yeah.
Well, I want everybody to take one takeaway tonight. I hope that everybody who either listens to this or watches it figures out, goes to their state government website. Every state's got one. In Florida, it's myflorida.com. I know it well. And you can search out your state's constitution. You can download it, and for free, it costs nothing. And I've printed several copies of it, and I've even bound a few just so I can take them to court with me. So, because when I walk in there and I start flipping through it, you should see the look on the bailiff's faces. They're like, they got that shit-eating grin, just like the cat that ate the canary. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a good day today.
All right, so I think I'm calling that a night. Thank you all for tuning in.
Absolutely.
Like, follow, and share Kirk's Law Corner. If you would, please, if you enjoyed the show, would like to get this education out there to as many people as we can, as fast as we can. Trey
B just says, FYI, the Illinois online version is incomplete. If somebody could get her a completed copy of the Illinois State Constitution, that would be great.
And thank you for those out there saying that you're going to pray for us and all that stuff. I really appreciate it. We need strength.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much.
This has taken me a little while to get up the courage to do this, and I'm talking like a little while, as in like 6 years at least. I've known for quite some time that I wanted to learn about the law and educate myself, clear back in 1995, or even clear back as early as 1985. When I was the child that was kidnapped by CPS, when I realized the corruption and the lies that they lie, I was 14 years old.
Yep.
And I know for a fact what it's like to be on the other side as the child, being kidnapped by CPS. I lived it. Foster care for a year. Went through 4 or 5 different foster homes. The first one I went into was great. From there, it was just a mess. I ended up running away, getting put into a group home, ran away from there, lived on the streets for a while. Yeah. So have faith, hope, and love, folks. Doing what we can. All we're doing is asking you is to educate yourself and start shaking this stuff to people. Remember, they may not know. Okay? Keep that mindset. They may not know that you're there to help educate them, just like what we're doing with you. You know, we're trying to help educate the people. They're part of the people. I mean, there's definitely going to be the crooked ones out there. So, you know.
And remember, these documents are yours. That's why they're free to download and free to print. They belong to the people. So,
yep. All right. Much love, folks. Thank you, Ted, for promoting us out here. Future of Our Children Network. Randy Davis out there, Brian Kinter, Neil Shelton, Cheyenne Davis.
Yes, thank you to all of them.
All you out there that are doing what you can to help educate other people, much love and respect to you, too. We need as many as we can.
Yes. And on that note, love you guys. We'll be talking soon.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, man.
Brother.
Talk to you soon.